Chapter 25:13. The skeleton-like bone ape had turned into a golden ape. Its voice was cold and domineering. As it jumped, it waved its mace that was glowing with cold light. In the past, the bone ape jumped clumsily. Every time it landed, the ground would tremble. Now it was like a dragonfly skimming the water. It did not make much noise when it landed, and its speed was much faster. After a few 100,000 miles, it was only 30,000 miles away from Night Sorrow. It is indeed much harder to deal with than before. However, it is not difficult to hold you back for a while. Night Sorrow, who was constantly being approached by the bone ape, led it into various arrays set up by Sir God Jin Yuan. However, no matter if it was an illusion array, a maze array, a trap array or a killing array, they could not slow down the bone ape. Its strength had completely surpassed the level of these arrays. It could easily break the arrays with its strength. You can't run away. These arrays were set up for the feather god. They cannot stop this king. Eat this king's mace. After chasing for a while, when the bone ape was only 5,000 miles away from Night Sorrow, it immediately activated its divine territory. It raised its mace and smashed it with murderous intent. The originally muddle-headed bone ape had started to call itself this king. This was a huge change in its intelligence. It was still adapting to other aspects. For example, at this moment when it was chasing Night Sorrow, it had only used its divine core power, and not its divine soul power. Divine core dragon lock array. However, even so, Night Sorrow was still under a lot of pressure, as the divine core power of the bone ape was infinitely close to that of a real Sir God. Its divine territory was extremely powerful. Being enveloped by its god territory, Night Sorrow felt like he had fallen into a quagmire. Although he had activated his essence chi smoke signal, Star's tyrant body, and his god territory, it didn't have any effect. He could only use the divine origin dragon locking formation to slow down the bone ape. Roar! However, the bone ape only roared and it immediately shattered the sealed space. The divine core dragon lock array was obviously not strong enough to trap the bone ape. Seeing that it had caught up to him again, Night Sorrow immediately used the virtuous dragon lock formation. Only then did he manage to temporarily trap the raging bone ape. Taking advantage of the fact that the bone ape was trapped, Night Sorrow hurriedly used Vanishing Shadow to fly up into the sky. The bone ape had always been jumping, so Yi Shan suspected that it might not be able to fly. Human cultivator, you have successfully angered this king. A few breaths later, the bone ape broke out of the formation. Seeing through Night Sorrow's thoughts, it immediately soared into the air and chased after him again. It turned out that it didn't fly out of habit. How is Jihao? I can't hold on for much longer. The bone ape could fly, and its flying speed was very fast. It was obviously faster than Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow could not help but send a telepathic message to Jihao, knowing that the time it would take the skeletal ape to break the virtuous dragon locking formation was getting shorter and shorter. Hopefully he would be faster. After all, the other 9 dragon veins could only be activated if he opened the core of the formation. I have already reached the core of the formation, but I don't seem to have enough divine essence to activate the formation. Before everyone took action, they had already sworn a heavenly Tao oath that they would work together before entering the Greenstone Palace. Jihao replied to Night Sorrow. It was not that he did not want to activate the core of the formation on purpose. It was just that he did not have enough divine essence. Are you sure that you don't have enough divine essence to activate the core of the formation? Night Sorrow, who was under great pressure, was much slower than the bone ape. Gradually he began to fly downwards. Furthermore, the frequency of using the virtuous dragon locking formation increased significantly, because the bone ape was breaking the formation faster and faster. I'm sure. I'm afraid that only Chen Qiuyue or Yao Shi can activate the core of the formation. Jihao quickly replied. According to his judgment, to activate the core of the formation, one would need to be a top-tier existence among the feather gods. Then what are you waiting for? Send a telepathic message to Yao Shi and tell her to hurry over. Night Sorrow instructed in annoyance. Now that the situation had changed, the pressure on his shoulders became even greater. If he was not careful, his divine essence would be destroyed. Roar! Roar! The bone ape, who had been continuously controlled by Yi Shang's virtuous dragon-locking formation, was unable to use its full strength. Night Sorrow, who was continuously controlling the bone ape, was not happy at all. In the beginning, the virtuous dragon-locking formation could only lock the bone ape for 3 to 4 breaths. Now it could only lock it for 1 breath. If this continued, the virtuous dragon-locking formation would not be able to restrain the bone ape sooner or later. At that time, if the formation was still not activated, his life would be in danger. Yaoshi, where are you? After a while, the formation was almost no longer effective on the bone ape. Night Sorrow could not help but send a telepathic message to Yaoshi. At this moment, the pressure he was under was increasing. Almost there. Another 100,000 miles. Yaoshi was well aware of the kind of pressure Yishan was shouldering. After recovering, she immediately used a secret art to increase her strength several times over, speeding towards the center of the formation. It's over. The bone ape is completely free. The moment Yaoshi recovered, the bone ape was completely immune to the virtuous dragon-locking formation. After being trapped for so long, the bone ape went berserk. Oh whoa. This king is going to tear you apart, human cultivator. Completely free, it even threw down the mace in its hands and chased after Night Sorrow. In terms of speed, Night Sorrow was no match for the bone ape and was caught up in no time. What can I do? Against the menacing bone ape, Night Sorrow could not help but think of a countermeasure. Go to hell. The bone ape hated Night Sorrow to the core. When it caught up to him, it smashed its fists down. It was huge and looked like a mountain in front of Night Sorrow. Locked in by the bone ape's divine territory, Night Sorrow immediately found it difficult to move. He could not even fly. The situation had reached a critical juncture. Boom. Before Night Sorrow could think, the bone ape's fist had already smashed down. Night Sorrow, who was locked in place and could not even travel through the void, could only use all his moves except the 7-star rage to block the fist. Crack! Night Sorrow's right arm, which was holding the spear, was directly broken because of the collision. His soul was dizzy from the bombardment. Several cracks appeared around the heavenly Samsara halberd. If the Samsara halberd had not absorbed most of the impact, Night Sorrow would have broken many of his bones. If this goes on, I'm afraid I'll be killed. The Samsara halberd's damage made Night Sorrow's heart ache. However, he could not care less at this moment, and kept thinking of a countermeasure. If he could not think of a way, he would undoubtedly be smacked to death. Got it. After the bone ape's attack, it lifted its leg and stomped over. At this moment, Night Sorrow had an idea. He thought of the formation patterns he had learned in the passageway. He thought to himself, maybe I can set up that kind of formation pattern and drill into the sand. That way, I can probably continue to delay. With this thought, Night Sorrow immediately drew the formation pattern on a grain of sand in the distance. When the bone ape's foot stomped down, Night Sorrow's figure had already appeared in the sand, and just happened to dodge the attack. At this moment, he had completely retracted his divine origin energy and power of merit, reducing his aura to the weakest. Roar! With one stomp, Night Sorrow actually disappeared into thin air. This made the bone ape so angry that it roared. Where did you hide? Unable to sense Night Sorrow's aura, the bone ape began to frantically stomp on the position where Night Sorrow had just disappeared. At this moment, Night Sorrow was only 100 miles away from his previous position. He could clearly feel every attack of the bone ape. Let's see where you can hide. The bone ape that was stomping around in a frenzy suddenly stopped attacking as it remembered the power of spirit. Chapter 25:14. Not good. The skeletal ape's consciousness is so powerful that I've been discovered. Since he had been discovered, Night Sorrow immediately emerged from the gravel to continue searching for his next target. However, he discovered that the skeletal ape's consciousness had completely locked onto him. There was no way to escape. Use the 7-star berserk Alcade? No, I'll soon suffer a backlash if I use it. Even if I can last until the formation activates and kill the skeletal ape, I'll definitely be targeted by others. Apart from Yao Shi, Yun Tianyi, Huang Lai and Yun Songping, Night Sorrow had encountered some sort of situation before. He had no choice but to be on guard. After thinking for a moment, Night Sorrow used the boundless body tempering art to absorb the energy in his right arm, and used the 7-star Berserk Fecta to increase his strength by 3 times. After his strength increased, he tried to combine his Divine Yuan Qi and Virtuous Energy to use the dragon-locking formation again. Surprisingly, he was able to control the skeletal ape. Roar! The skeletal ape was on the verge of collapse after being controlled again. This time, it used almost a breath to break free. Night Sorrow hadn't run very far while the skeletal ape was trapped. After escaping, he immediately jumped up and attacked. Freeze! Night Sorrow knew that the longer he delayed, the more hope he had. He didn't hesitate to use the dragon-locking formation again. However, this time, the skeletal ape was completely immune to the dragon-locking formation. How can this be? Night Sorrow was very surprised that the skeletal ape was completely immune to the dragon-locking formation. He could only choose to take the skeletal ape's punch head-on. Boom! Night Sorrow, who had been prepared for his body to be smashed to pieces, didn't expect that the skeletal ape would be the one sent flying after this collision. He was completely unharmed. 9 dragons to the heavens. The formation has already been activated. At this moment, Night Sorrow raised his head to look at the distant plains. He discovered that 9 massive dragons had already risen into the air above. These dragons were quietly floating in the sky, guarding a pearl above the valley. However, they had weakened the skeletal ape to the level of a low-level high god. Kill. The bone ape, whose strength had suddenly been weakened, seemed to have lost its intelligence as it mindlessly attacked Night Sorrow. However, its strength had already been weakened to such an extent. How could it be a match for Night Sorrow? After a few rounds, he was completely killed. Night Sorrow was surprised that the insufferably arrogant bone ape had become so weak after being weakened. However, he didn't have the time to think too much about it. After the bone ape died, it immediately turned into a golden key. Beside the key was a key fragment. This fragment was similar to the one he had obtained from the hall. It was clearly a fragment of the same key. In addition, beside the key and the key fragment was a fist-sized blue energy crystal core. This energy crystal core contained an extremely powerful God Yuan Qi. It was clearly the energy source of the bone ape. Next to the blue energy crystal core was a black crystal that contained soul power. They're all good stuff. After putting away the key and the key fragment, Night Sorrow thought for a moment and put away the black crystal core. Then he threw the blue energy crystal core into the Samsara halberd, allowing it to absorb energy to repair the halberd. Not long after, the Samsara halberd was completely repaired. Its aura was even stronger than before. Yaoshi, how are things on your side? I've already got the key. Yin Tianyi, how are things on your side? I've already got the key. After repairing the Samsara halberd, Night Sorrow immediately transmitted his voice to Yaoshi and Yin Tianyi. They had exchanged voice transmission stones and could communicate over long distances. I'm collecting the magic pearl in the center of the formation. The energy it contains is very pure. It's definitely something good. Yaoshi's voice immediately came from the voice transmission stone. It's good that you've got the key. I'm refining the dragon crystal core. Yin Tianyi's situation was similar to Yaoshi's. He was refining the dragon crystal core. Actually, they weren't the only ones who obtained good stuff. Qin Qiuyue and the rest were the same. All of them obtained benefits. All of them chose to refine it on the spot. I'll wait for you at the entrance of the Greenstone Palace. The key is with me. We'll take the initiative. After receiving Yaoshi and Yin Tianyi's reply, Night Sorrow transmitted his voice to them and flew back to the entrance of the Greenstone Palace. No matter what, they had relied on everyone's strength to successfully obtain the key. Night Sorrow didn't choose to secretly use the key to open the door. Instead, he sat cross-legged on the ground and recovered from his injuries. After a while, Night Sorrow, who had suffered the backlash of the 7 stars Berserk, was obviously weakened. He didn't have any extra divine essence energy to repair his right arm. At this moment, his right arm had returned to its normal shape. However, he couldn't use it for battle. Looks like I can only wait for Yaoshi and Yin Tianyi to come and ask them for some healing elixirs. Night Sorrow's elixirs had all been crushed into powder by the skeletal ape and scattered in the void. He didn't have any elixirs with him now. Not long after, The other 10 invincible feather gods arrived at the entrance of the green stone palace. Chen Qiuyue immediately looked at Night Sorrow and asked, "Did you get the key?" "I got it." Night Sorrow nodded. The atmosphere on the platform became subtle because of these two simple sentences. Nie Qingping seemed to be a little restless. Yan Jiannan also secretly began to condense divine essence energy. "Since you got the key, then decide who will open the palace door." After confirming that Night Sorrow had the key, Chen Qiuyue immediately used his divine domain and spoke sharply. "Hehe. I was the one who thought of the plan. I was the one who delayed the skeletal ape. I was also the one who got the key. Naturally, I will be the one to open the palace." Night Sorrow responded coldly to Chen Qiuyue's words. He had risked his life to deal with the skeletal ape. The others had only expended some divine essence energy. Naturally, he should be the one to open the palace door. Ji Hao and Lung Ningxin were the ones who thought of the plan. The skeletal ape was killed by our combined efforts. Why should you be the one to open the palace door? If you know what's good for you, hurry up and hand over the key. Otherwise, don't blame me for killing you. Nie Qingping, who had suffered at the hands of Night Sorrow, immediately stood up. "If I hadn't lured the skeletal ape away, you would never have had the chance to enter the green stone palace. This is logic. If you don't want to talk, then let's fight." Night Sorrow immediately activated his divine domain and prepared to attack. Yao Shi and Yun Tianyi immediately gathered around Night Sorrow and activated their divine domains as well. "There's no need to fight. We have a total of 11 feather gods here. Let's vote to decide who will open the palace door. We all swore that we wouldn't fight before entering the palace. Let's settle this through voting." Chen Qiuyue smiled coldly and said, "Those who support me in opening the palace door, stand behind me." After she finished speaking, Nie Qingping, Zhua Heng, and Yan Jiannan immediately stood behind her. Ji Hao and Lung Ningxin hesitated for a moment before standing on their side. Even Huang Lai and Yin Sungping chose to support her. Chapter 25:15. Huang Lai, Yin Songping, I didn't expect the two of you to stand on Chen Qiuyue's side. Night Sorrow wasn't surprised that the others stood on Chen Qiuyue's side. He couldn't help but sigh when he saw Huang Lai and Yin Songping stand on Chen Qiuyue's side without hesitation. They could have been friends, but it seemed like they would soon have to fight to the death. They could share the opportunity they found, but they could only fight to the death if they stood on the opposite side. Night Sorrow, although you saved the two of us from the trapping array, you're wise. The three of you obviously don't have the strength to fight against Fairy Qiuyue. Aren't Sung Ping and I looking for death by standing on your side? From now on we have nothing to do with each other. If you don't hand over the key to Fairy Qiuyue, don't blame me for being merciless." After choosing to stand on Chen Qiuyue's side, Huang Lai immediately showed hostility toward Night Sorrow. In his opinion, Chen Qiuyue's lineup was almost the top 10 in the Feather God realm in the Dark Moon Dominators area. Yao Shi, Night Sorrow, and Yin Tianyi weren't enough. Hand over the palace key, or you'll die a horrible death. Yin Songping also scolded. Following Chen Qiuyue was the result of his and Huang Lai's research. Good, very good. We'll fight again if we meet again. Seeing Huang Lai and Yin Songping's performance, Night Sorrow raised his hand and applauded them. Haha. 8-3, there's no doubt about it. Your Majesty has won. Night Sorrow, hand over the key. Chen Qiuyue laughed out loud. The person who entered the Greenstone Palace first might have a special opportunity. Now that she had an obvious advantage in strength, she was in a good mood. So what if it's 8-3? The key is in my hands, and I have veto power. Yao Shi, Tianyi, let's go. Night Sorrow didn't approve of Chen Qiuyue's so-called vote at all. After he and Yao Shi sent a voice transmission to Yun Tianyi, he used the Merit Dragon Locking Array to trap Chen Qiuyue. Together with Yao Shi and Yun Tianyi, they rushed to the entrance of the Bluestone Palace. Chen Qiuyue was trapped. Everyone wanted to stop her, but they were all afraid that they would be killed by Yao Shi. No one dared to rush to the front. They all used their divine weapons and attacked Night Sorrow, Yao Shi and Yun Tianyi. Break. Yao Shi immediately used her Frostbrow sword to create a rain of swords in the face of the oncoming divine weapons and divine light. This attack was very domineering. The energy ripples sent all the divine artifacts flying. At the same time, Night Sorrow, who seized the opportunity, instantly opened the door of the Bluestone Palace. The moment the door of the Bluestone Palace opened, an extremely rich divine spirit chi spewed out. It made people feel very comfortable. Night Sorrow, who was looking through the door into the palace, immediately reminded them, "These are all good things. Let's rush in quickly." At this moment, in the palace, one could see elixirs or treasures at any random glance. Clearly, the treasures of Divine Lord Jinyuan's cave abode had been completely opened. Alright, let's go. Yaoshi had expended a lot of energy in her previous attack. When she heard Night Sorrow's words, she immediately sheathed her sword and rushed into the palace with him. Night Sorrow, Yaoshi, and Yun Tianyi had a tacit understanding. They didn't stay on the first floor of the palace to collect the elixirs or divine weapons. Instead, they ran straight for the palace's staircase. When they entered the palace, they realized that they couldn't fly. They could only run with their movement techniques. Damn it, it's so frustrating. I saw a bunch of good things but I can't collect them. As they ran to the second floor, Yun Tianyi cursed indignantly. Don't be anxious. The good things must be at the back. Let's explore first. There's no rush to take action. Night Sorrow didn't think much of it. He felt that although the items in the hall on the first floor weren't bad, they were still slightly inferior to supreme-grade items. That seems to be the case. However, giving the items to them feels like running away. I don't feel good about it, Yun Tianyi complained. If we were in our peak condition, even if it was 3 against 8, we would still be able to fight. However, when I was fighting against the bone ape, I suffered a serious backlash from using a mystic technique. I also lost an arm, and am in a very bad state. Night Sorrow explained and said, "Does any of you have elixirs that can quickly recover from injuries? If you want a fight, I just need to recover. I have some divine soul recovery elixirs here. I'll give you 4. Yaoshi was relatively wealthy. She immediately handed Night Sorrow 4 elixirs. Thank you. This is just what I need. Night Sorrow didn't argue. He took the divine soul recovery elixirs and swallowed 2. He quickly recovered completely. At this time, the 3 of them had rushed up the stairs to the 7th floor. Chen Qiuyue and the others didn't chase after them. Let's take a look first. How many floors does this Bluestone Palace have? Then we'll make other plans. The Bluestone Palace's exterior seemed to be towering into the clouds, but they couldn't tell how many floors there were. Night Sorrow felt that they could first reach the top and take a look at the number of floors. Once they had an idea, they could turn back and do other things. Yes, that's fine. I agree. Yun Tianyi immediately agreed. However, she then said unhappily, "However, if there are more floors, those B***Gs might gain a lot of benefits." Don't worry. We'll give them a surprise soon. In response, Night Sorrow's lips curled into a smile. He continued to climb up with Yaoshi and Yun Tianyi. Finally, they found that this Bluestone Palace had 33 floors. 33 floors seems to have a special meaning. On the top floor, Yaoshi said as she looked at the blurry scene in the palace. What special meaning? Yun Tianyi immediately asked curiously. My master said that the God Realm once had a king-grade divine artifact called the Temple of the 33 Days. The Temple of the 33 Days he described is very similar to this palace. I suspect that this Bluestone Palace is the Temple of the 33 Days. Yaoshi's expression was elegant as she softly voiced her suspicions. If that's the case, then the most important treasure in this Bluestone Palace is the Bluestone Palace itself. Yaoshi's words made Night Sorrow's heart skip a beat. However, he also knew that it was very difficult to make a king-grade divine artifact recognize him as its master. At this moment, Night Sorrow thought of the sky-piercing bone pagoda in the endless bone realm. They were too far away now, so he couldn't sense the situation in the bone pagoda. No one who made the sky-piercing bone pagoda recognize him, as its master had a good ending. This matter had always been weighing on his mind. It is indeed a treasure. However, if we want to take it, we'll probably have to go through some trouble. What should we do next? The king-grade divine artifact was too far away for Yun Tianyi to be interested. He only wanted to find some opportunities as soon as possible to increase his strength. Our next step is naturally to give Chen Qiuyue and the others a surprise. They have the advantage in overall strength. If we encounter them, they will definitely kill us. There's no need for us to be polite. Night Sorrow's body was filled with a strong fighting spirit. He said domineeringly, "Let's turn back now and catch them off guard." When facing the bone ape, he had always chosen to control it and escape. He had been suppressing a fire in his heart. He wanted to have a good battle to completely release it. Otherwise, he wouldn't feel good. "All right, let's destroy them. We'll carefully search the entire palace." Yao Shi, who was also filled with fighting spirit, responded fearlessly. Night Sorrow gave her a lot of confidence. "Should we fight to the death or retreat after the sneak attack?" Yin Tianyi asked excitedly as the battle was about to begin. "Our bottom line is to ensure our own safety. We'll see how the battle develops. I think it's best to kill them all in one fell swoop." After saying this, Night Sorrow walked in front. As he walked, he sent voice transmissions to Yao Shi and Yin Tianyi to discuss the specific battle strategy. Chapter 25:16. They would retreat in order to advance and kill their opponents by surprise. This seemed risky, but it was actually the best choice. Otherwise, they definitely wouldn't be a match for 3 against 8. According to my estimations, they'll definitely split up. When the time comes, we'll cut the Gordian knot and kill 1 or 2 of them. As they walked down from the 33rd floor, Night Sorrow transmitted his voice to the 2 of them. "When you attack, try to kill them in one blow. Also, you have to be wary of their counterattacks before they die. After all, they all have divine talismans." The cultivators who entered the Bluestone Palace, or the Temple of the 33 Days, were all invincible feather gods. Every one of them was a genius nurtured by their sect, clan, or faction. It was impossible that they didn't have life-saving treasures. You have to be careful of Chen Qiuyue. Our strength is about the same, but she always has some extremely evil pills or treasures in her hands. For example, the deity-level mind-loss pill. The poisoned feather gods will lose their minds and become bloodthirsty demons. She'll use it whenever she really has to fight for her life. Here are pills specially made to guard against her. Keep them well. If you're poisoned, take them immediately. Yao Shi understood Chen Qiuyue very well. She knew that she had many tricks up her sleeve. On the way down, she gave Night Sorrow and Yin Tianyi a few bottles of antidote pills. "If we encounter Chen Qiuyue later, I'll try my best to control her. Yao Shi, you kill the others as quickly as possible." Their biggest weakness is that they formed a temporary team. They each have their own ulterior motives and won't risk their lives for their teammates. "Tianyi, you're a bit weak. Just stand at the back and cooperate with Fairy Yao Shi to kill them." Although the Temple of the 33 Days was tall and grand, with Night Sorrow and the others' strength, it was still very fast for them to go up and down. Night Sorrow didn't say much before they reached the 6th floor. Up until now, they still hadn't encountered any invincible feather gods, nor had they heard any movement. "Be on guard. Yao Shi and I will walk in front. Tianyi will be in charge of the rear. Something's wrong. They're too quiet." When he reached the 4th floor, Night Sorrow didn't hear anything. He was afraid that using his spiritual energy to investigate would alert the enemy, so he could only be on guard. "There's a situation. Get ready." There was no sound on the 4th floor, but when they reached the 3rd and 4th floor, they suddenly heard the vague sounds of fighting. Due to the distance, Zhang Xian was unable to hear clearly, but there was no doubt that there was a fight going on. Could it be internal strife? That shouldn't be the case. Chen Qiuyue should be able to control the situation. Yin Tianyi immediately said in doubt. "It doesn't sound like it, because there's a roaring voice that seems to belong to a high god." Every floor of the Temple of the 33 Days was incomparably huge. Standing at the top of the stairs, the sound was very ethereal. Yin Tianyi couldn't hear clearly, so Yao Shi immediately explained to him. Meanwhile, Yao Shi's pupils suddenly constricted and she said, "I remember now. My master once said, the 3rd, 13th, 23rd, and 33rd floors of the Temple of the 33 Days all have divine generals guarding them. As long as you defeat the divine generals, you will receive a large reward. The 3rd floor's reward is slightly inferior, while the 33rd floor's reward is the best, but it's also very generous. All the more reason for us to take action. We can't let them get the reward no matter what. Night Sorrow, who was standing at the top of the stairs, thought for a moment and said, "We'll encounter them sooner or later. I'll use my spiritual energy to investigate the situation on their side. This will definitely expose us, so we have to prepare for battle." "Yes, I'm completely prepared. I can unleash my strongest attack at any time." At this moment, Yaoshi had already opened her divine domain. Her divine domain was suffused with a cold white light, which matched her cold temperament. 3 against 8, it's really a bit nerve-wracking. However, Yun Tianyi was originally only a gatekeeper of the Divine Feather list. Now, I can fight with the top Divine Feather of the Dark Moon Divine Domain. This is really exciting. Yun Tianyi rubbed her palms together. After absorbing the Divine King's blood essence, her desire for battle was very strong. There's a formation at the top of the stairs. This should be the work of Ji Hao and Lung Ningxin. I can't break this formation, so I can only break it with force. However, if I break it, I'll definitely expose them. No wonder they don't have anyone guarding them. After probing with his spiritual energy, Night Sorrow immediately found a formation. This formation was exactly the same as the one that Yun Tianyi had accidentally entered when he first entered the cave. He wondered where Ji Hao and Lung Ningxin had gotten the materials to set up this formation. In this case, let's kill them. We can't let them get the reward no matter what. This time, Yaoshi drew out the Frostbrow sword from the scabbard and rushed into the formation domineeringly. It only took her a few strikes to break this formation. She was much faster than Night Sorrow and Yun Tianyi back then. Oh no! The formation I set up has been broken. Yaoshi and Night Sorrow have returned. Be careful. The moment the formation was broken, Ji Hao immediately sensed it and issued a warning. Damn it! Why did they have to come when the divine general guarding the entrance is about to be defeated? Nie Qingping, Zuoheng, Yin Jiannan, follow me and stop them. The rest of you, kill the divine general as soon as possible and split the rewards equally. In the cave of the Jinyuan Divine Lord, spatial artifacts couldn't be used. Therefore, Chen Qiuyue wasn't worried about the distribution of rewards. She wasn't worried about Ji Hao and Lung Ningxin filling their pockets. She was only worried about Night Sorrow and Yaoshi. When they rushed to the stairs, Chen Qiuyue transmitted her voice to Zuoheng. Zuoheng, you're good at hiding. When the battle starts, find a chance to kill Yun Tianyi. Okay. I can definitely kill a piece of trash like Yun Tianyi with one strike. As he spoke, Zuoheng, who had been walking beside Chen Qiuyue, gradually became blurry and disappeared into thin air. To him, it didn't matter if Yun Tianyi was ranked in the top 50 or the top 100. Even Chen Qiuyue, Nie Qingping, and Yin Jiannan couldn't detect his presence. Impressive. Although Nie Qingping was stronger than Zuoheng, he was no match for Zuoheng when it came to assassination. Seeing Zuoheng disappear silently in front of him, he couldn't help but sigh in admiration. He felt that the top 20 experts on the Divine Feather list were no ordinary people. After dealing with Zuoheng, Chen Qiuyue said to Nie Qingping and Yin Jiannan, "If I'm not wrong, Night Sorrow will definitely use that disgusting array to trap me. You two try to stall Yaoshi. When Zuoheng kills Yun Tianyi, we'll fight 4 against 2. Yaoshi and Night Sorrow won't be a match for us." At the same time, she took out 2 medicine bottles from her belt and handed them to Nie Qingping and Yin Jiannan. "If you can't hold on, use this on Yaoshi." "What's this?" Yin Jiannan asked curiously. "As long as Yaoshi doesn't come into contact with this, she'll soon lose her resistance." A playful smile appeared on Chen Qiuyue's face. "Okay, we got it." Hearing Chen Qiuyue's words, Yin Jiannan smiled knowingly. "This is really good stuff." Nie Qingping nodded with a smile. "They're here. Get ready to fight." As soon as Nie Qingping spoke, Chen Qiuyue reminded him. Chapter 25:17. Soon, the two sides were within 10,000 miles of each other, and they saw the 3 people coming towards them. Chen Qiuyue smiled and shook her head. She said coldly, "You shouldn't have come back to die. It's no use stalling for time. I won't let you succeed in killing the Divine General. You won't get this reward." Yaoshi, who was holding the Frostbrow sword, looked elegant, but she didn't hesitate in battle. She directly used her secret art, Mysterious Sky Immortal Slaying Sword. She slashed at the weakest person in the local camp, Yinjianan. Mysterious Sky Immortal Slaying Sword was one of the signature secret arts of Tianxian school. It was created by the Mysterious Sky Divine King. Yaoshi, who used it, was like a fairy flying from the heavens. She floated in the air and transformed into 9 identical shadows. They slashed at Yinjianan one by one. Each figure was like a fairy, light and full of murderous intent. Blood Evil Lotus. Mysterious Sky Immortal Slaying Sword was famous in the Dark Moon Dominator's territory. Yinjianan naturally heard of it. Facing Yaoshi's attack, cold sweat appeared on his cheeks. He immediately summoned the Blood Evil Lotus and took a blood-red elixir. After increasing his divine essence, he activated the Blood Evil Lotus to block this attack. He didn't expect Yaoshi to attack Yinjianan directly. While blocking, he transmitted a message to Chen Qiuyue. I'm not her opponent. Save me. Don't worry. Nie Qingping is here. He can help you block this attack. Chen Qiuyue transmitted a message to Yinjianan. On the surface, she used the red armillary sash to block the attack, but she didn't move much. She felt that she would be trapped by Night Sorrow's array immediately. Night Sorrow had the ability to form an array in a year. She couldn't dodge at all. She could only launch a fierce attack after being trapped and break the array. At the same time, Nie Qingping took out a bell from his belt and instantly enlarged it, covering Yinjianan's head to defend against Yaoshi's attack. Zhuaheng, who was in hiding, quietly crept behind Yun Tianyi. He was prepared to assassinate Yun Tianyi as soon as Night Sorrow made his move. He wanted to kill him in one strike. It's done. As long as Yun Tianyi is dead, Night Sorrow will be distracted by Zhuaheng and won't have time to take care of me. We've won this battle. As long as we get rid of them, the thing that Lord Father wants me to snatch will definitely fall into my hands. Noticing that Zhuaheng was already in place and that Night Sorrow, Yaoshi and Yun Tianyi hadn't noticed, Chen Qiuyue was immediately overjoyed. She felt that she was not far from the goal of this trip. Paying the price to invite so many experts was completely worth it. Virtuous Dragon Locking Array. Trap. At this moment, Night Sorrow performed the Virtuous Dragon Locking Array. However, his target was not Chen Qiuyue, but Zhuaheng, who was sneaking over. Others couldn't see through Zhuaheng's movement technique, but Night Sorrow's sea serpent's eye could see through it. He had been discovered when he sneaked over. He even told Yaoshi and Yun Tianyi about it. However, the 3 of them pretended not to see him and deliberately let him lurk behind them. Naturally, they were preparing to launch a counterattack. Kill. Night Sorrow's Virtuous Dragon Locking Array had just trapped Zhuaheng inside. The virtual shadow attacked Yinjianan and Yaoshi continuously, while the real body immediately slashed toward the Virtuous Dragon Locking Array. This was the essence of the Tianxian Immortal Slaying Sword. Formless Sword Array. Kill. 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 Yun Tianyi, who was the closest to Zhuaheng, immediately turned around and performed the Formless Sword Array, which was very powerful. In an instant, countless swords rained down on the Virtuous Dragon Locking Array. On the other side, Night Sorrow, who had used the Virtuous Dragon Locking formation, was not idle either. He activated the Essence Smoke Beacon and the Star's Dominating Body. He used the Samsara Halberd, which had just been repaired and become more powerful, to launch a brand new Samsara Strike. Fairy Qiuyue help. Zhuaheng, who was trapped in the Virtuous Dragon Locking Array, had no experience of being trapped, so he was a little confused when he was trapped. Before he could react, powerful sword shadows and spear shadows attacked him continuously. Yaoshi, Night Sorrow, and Yun Tianyi's attacks landed on Zhuaheng's body one after another. Zhuaheng's specialty was ambushes and assassinations, not defense. He didn't even have time to activate his life-saving measures before he was blasted apart. Both his Dantian and Spirit Sea were shattered, and his divine soul was completely destroyed. Damn it, how could this be? Zhuaheng, who was ranked in the top 20 of the Divine Feather list and the 4th person in the Divine Feather realm in the Dark Moon Dominator's area, was good at assassination. After entering the cave, except for the battle with the Immortal General, he was killed without making a single move. This was too unexpected. Chen Qiuyue was so angry that she couldn't help but roar. Originally, she had the upper hand, but with Sua Heng's death, the situation immediately changed subtly. This is all because of this Yi Shang. We have to kill him first, no matter the cost. Chen Qiuyue, who knew that Night Sorrow must have found Sua Heng, roared angrily. Then she transmitted a message to Ji Hao and the others saying, "Give up on the immortal general for now. Come and kill Night Sorrow and Yaoshi." Fairy Qiuyue and the others can't hold on anymore? The immortal general was about to be killed, but then he heard Chen Qiuyue's summon. Ji Hao was a little surprised. He thought that Chen Qiuyue's team was a golden team, and they could easily crush the Divine Feather Realm in the Dark Moon Dominator's area. It's possible. I have a feeling that Night Sorrow's skills are strange. He's not easy to deal with. Lung Mingxin sighed. She was a little afraid of Night Sorrow. They have Yaoshi and Night Sorrow. They're not easy to deal with. No matter what, Fairy Qiuyue summoned us. We must go. Otherwise, we'll be in trouble if she gets angry. Although Huang Lai was the young master of a sect, he was nothing compared to Chen Qiuyue. After he finished speaking, the four of them left the area where the immortal general was, and went to support the battle. Let's finish this quickly. We must kill one more before their reinforcements arrive. This time, our target is Yin Jiannan. I'll trap him. Yin Tianyi, help me kill him. Yao Shi, hold off Chen Qiuyue and Ye Qingping. After Zhua Heng died, he left behind a monarch god talisman and a crystal clear pearl. This monarch god talisman was different from Yao Shi's and Chen Qiuyue's. It was not made by an invincible monarch god, but by a high-level superior god. However, Night Sorrow was quite satisfied with the talisman. It meant that he had another life-saving talisman. Night Sorrow put away the talisman and handed the pearl to Yin Tianyi. He raised his Samsara halberd and used Inferno Demon on Yin Jiannan. Time was of the essence, so he didn't give anything to Yao Shi. He planned to make it up to her later. At the same time, Night Sorrow used the power of good karma to cast the karmic dragonlock formation to trap Yin Jiannan. Once the formation was cast, Yin Jiannan, who was trapped, knew that he was going to be attacked. However, he couldn't resist and was immediately burned. Nye Qingping, let's ignore Yin Jiannan and focus on killing Night Sorrow. Now that he's casting the formation, he won't be able to take care of himself. If nothing unexpected happens, Yaoshi will stop me. I'll leave the chance to kill Night Sorrow to you. Chen Qiuyue ruthlessly made a prompt decision when her well-designed plan was ruined. To her, even if Yin Jiannan died, it would be worth it if she could kill Night Sorrow. Chapter 25:18. Chen Qiuyue made such a decision. If Yaoshi chose to attack Yin Jiannan, then Night Sorrow would very likely be killed by her and Nye Qingping. If Yaoshi chose to stop him, then with Nye Qingping's interference, Yishan definitely wouldn't have the chance to kill Yin Jiannan. It could be considered a success in besieging Wei to rescue Zhao, and also a gain. As for Yin Tianyi, Chen Qiuyue didn't care at all. She felt that he wouldn't be able to affect the battle at all, and wouldn't be able to kill Yin Jiannan in a short time. After the furious Chen Qiuyue and Nye Qingping reacted, Yaoshi chose to protect Night Sorrow without hesitation and blocked Chen Qiuyue. Night Sorrow wielded the Samsara Heavenly Halberd and fought with Nye Qingping. This time, Night Sorrow couldn't use his god energy, or the virtuous dragon-locking formation against Nye Qingping. He could only choose to fight head-on. Nye Qingping was ranked in the top 20 of the Divine Realm's Feather God list. He was naturally powerful and wasn't restricted by the trapping formation. The heaven-seeking bell floated above his head for defense, and the green stone halberd in his hand. Let's see how you're going to fight me without that trapping formation. Trash Middle Feather God. Facing Night Sorrow, Nye Qingping was very confident. He was very talkative during the battle. However, the heaven-seeking bell's defense was indeed very high. He had the capital to boast. This bell is very good. It can stack with the defensive magic robe. I must think of a way to kill Nye Qingping and take the bell. Night Sorrow, who couldn't use his power of virtue, was at a slight disadvantage. He didn't have any extra energy to attack Yin Jiannan, who was trapped in the trapping formation. He pondered over Nye Qingping's bell and wanted to take it. At this time, Yin Tianyi, who was completely ignored, was so angry that her hands were trembling. How dare you look down on me? I'm also someone who has the Divine King's inheritance. Cloud Desolate Heaven Splitting Sword. Yun Tianyi, who felt defeated, immediately used the ultimate technique she learned from the Divine King of the Cloud Wilderness, and slashed at Yin Jiannan, who was in the array formation. Yin Jiannan, who was trapped in the virtuous dragon locking formation, and had just been burned by the flames, had already hidden inside the Blood Fiend Lotus platform, and used it to defend himself. Yun Tianyi's Cloud Desolate Heaven Cleaving Sword only slashed out a white sword chi. It didn't look very powerful, but after slashing into Night Sorrow's virtuous dragon locking array, it immediately broke through the defense of the Blood Fiend Lotus platform. The key point of this Cloud Desolate Heaven Splitting Sword was the word destroy. It had a very strong destructive effect on magic treasures and divine realms. It could often turn something rotten into something magical. What move is this? After the Blood Fiend Lotus platform was broken, Yin Jiannan immediately panicked in the trapping array. After hesitating for a moment, he took out the half-step Divine Lord Realm Divine Talisman. However, even with the Divine Talisman in his hand, he still didn't make the decision to use it. After all, he was the same as everyone else. He had made a heavenly Tao oath. As long as he used the Divine Talisman, he would suffer a backlash from the heavenly Tao oath. Blood-burning mystic art. Divine Palm. In the end, Yin Jiannan didn't dare to violate the heavenly Tao oath. He used a mystic art to increase his strength and used his ultimate technique to continuously attack the virtuous dragon locking array's defense. However, just as he loosened the array formation a little, Yun Tianyi's Cloud Desolate Heaven Splitting Sword attacked again, directly breaking through his divine realm. What followed was the rain of thousands of swords brought by the phaseless sword array. After being attacked continuously in the trapping array, Yin Jiannan couldn't say anything. Even if Yun Tianyi's attack power was limited, it wasn't something he could use his body to resist. Not long later, he couldn't hold on anymore and was forcefully exhausted to death. After Yin Jiannan was exhausted to death, Night Sorrow regained control of his power of virtue. When he fought with Nie Qingping again, the pressure on him lessened. He immediately trapped him in the virtuous dragon locking array and shouted to Yun Tianyi, "Continue to use the Cloud Desolate Heaven Splitting Sword from just now." He hoped that Yun Tianyi could break through the Heaven-Seeking Bell's defense. This way he might be able to kill Nie Qingping. As long as he killed him, the Heaven-Seeking Bell would naturally be his. Alright. However, my divine essence energy is almost exhausted. I can only use one last attack. Yun Tianyi responded and used the Cloud Desolate Heaven Splitting Sword. After using this move, he lost the ability to fight. He had already used up the pills that could instantly recover his energy. Night Sorrow didn't have any either. Although Yao Shi had some. She and Chen Qiuyue had already reached the climax of their battle and couldn't use any. The two of them had almost the same strength. The battle was very intense and they couldn't care about anything else. Thus, the exhausted Yun Tianyi could only stand at the back and watch Night Sorrow and Yao Shi's battle. Luckily, the other party didn't have any extra battle power. Otherwise he would definitely be killed. It doesn't seem to have any effect. Night Sorrow originally thought that Yun Tianyi's attack could break through the Heaven-Seeking Bell's defense. However, the result clearly disappointed him. Yun Tianyi's Cloud Desolate Heaven Splitting Sword didn't have any effect after using it. The other party's reinforcements are here. We need to avoid them for now. I'll trap Chen Qiuyue. Yao Shi, prepare to intercept Nie Qingping. After that, take Yun Tianyi with me and go back upstairs. Night Sorrow used the Sea Serpent's eye to see that Ji Hao and the others had already arrived. Their situation wasn't good, and they could only choose to retreat temporarily. This time, they had successfully killed Zhuo Heng and Yin Jiannan. The harvest was already good. Yao Shi and Yun Tianyi were also quite satisfied. After hearing Night Sorrow's voice transmission, Yao Shi immediately used her movement technique and returned to Yun Tianyi's side. Night Sorrow gave up on restraining Nie Qingping and used the virtuous dragon locking array to temporarily restrain Chen Qiuyue. He knew that Chen Qiuyue was strong enough and would be able to break out of the array soon. After shooting the reincarnation spear at Nie Qingping, he began to retreat. Yao Shi, who had retreated to Yin Tiany's side, also slashed out several sword auras to block Nie Qingping's pursuit. Fairy Yaoshi, do you have any elixirs that can recover divine essence power? Please give me one. Yin Tiany, who had been brought back upstairs by Night Sorrow and Yaoshi, immediately asked. Now that everyone was in a life and death situation together, he didn't hold back. Yes, take it and consume it. We can only continue to fight with them if we quickly recover our strength. Yaoshi felt very refreshed in the battle just now. She really wanted to cut the Gordian knot and get rid of a few more opponents. I'm afraid I can't fight anymore for the time being. Something's wrong with my condition. There's something wrong with my power of virtue. At this moment, Night Sorrow suddenly spoke up. Night Sorrow immediately felt that something was wrong when he used the virtuous dragon locking array on Chen Qiuyue. He knew that he had been using his power of virtue too frequently recently, and had already caused damage to his body. He couldn't use it again for a short period of time. This sudden change had a huge impact on the situation. Is this the price of using special powers? How do you feel? Yaoshi was very knowledgeable and had heard of some special powers, such as the power of virtue, the power of destiny, and the dragon chi of the human emperor. Now that Night Sorrow had suffered a backlash, his body's condition was very bad. She immediately frowned. This was equivalent to a warning from the heavenly Tao. If they didn't take it seriously, the consequences would be very serious. As long as I don't continue to use my power of virtue, there shouldn't be any impact. However, my strongest power is my power of virtue. Being unable to use it will have a huge impact on the battle. For now, we can only avoid it. Night Sorrow replied. He felt that if he wanted to use his power of virtue again, he might need another breakthrough in his power of virtue. This is really a huge blow. Yin Tiany, who had just swallowed a pill to recover his god essence energy, originally thought that he could continue the battle. Now he suffered a blow to his head. After losing Night Sorrow's special power, he realized how perverse it was. But Chen Qiuyue's side has 2 people killed. He must be furious and will give up on the 3rd floor's divine generals. Where should we escape to? Yaoshi, who realized the critical situation, couldn't help but worry. Chapter 25:19. Don't panic. The Temple of the 33 Days is big enough. We can enter any floor and stall for time while waiting for an opportunity. Although I can't use my power of virtue, I still have my basic combat strength. If I can't avoid it, I can at least fight. During the battle, Night Sorrow didn't use the 7-star Violent Alcade. This was his trump card. If he used it, he could kill Huang Lai or Yin Songping instantly. After all, even if he couldn't use the virtuous dragon locking formation, he could still use the divine origin dragon locking formation. As for Ji Hao and Lung Ningxin, their techniques were too strange. They could teleport back and forth, so it wouldn't be easy to kill them. With this thought, Night Sorrow gradually recovered from the shock of not being able to use his power of virtue. He said again, "Let's go to the 23rd floor. Let's see if we can find a place to hide. If we can't find a place to hide, we'll go to the area where the divine generals are and make use of them." Okay, that's our ideal choice. Seeing Night Sorrow's calmness, Yaoshi gradually calmed down. She dispersed her battle intent and rushed to the 23rd floor at full speed. She knew that Night Sorrow had a reason for choosing this floor. If Chen Qiuyue and the others caught up with them, they could at least make use of the powerful immortal generals to start an uncontrollable chaotic battle, and find an opportunity in the chaotic battle. If they didn't chase, they would definitely return to the 3rd floor to kill the divine generals. After killing the divine generals on the 3rd floor, they would go to the 13th floor. This way, the 3 of them might have a chance to kill the divine generals on the 23rd floor. As for the divine generals on the 33rd floor, Night Sorrow judged that they were at least as strong as the half-step divine Lord Bone Ape. It might be difficult for the 3 of them to kill them. Follow me. Be careful. Night Sorrow's divine sense was very strong. He could sense that Chen Qiuyue and the others were still chasing after them. When they approached the 23rd floor, he opened the sea serpent's eye and observed the situation from the stairs. The god spirit chi on the 23rd floor was very dense. It seemed to be 10 times denser than the divine world. The surface of the floor was as firm as iron, and it was densely covered with milky white mist. This mist was humid, and it would cover a part of the divine soul power. However, Night Sorrow's sea serpent eye was completely unobstructed. He could see things thousands of miles away. After observing for a while, Night Sorrow reminded Yaoshi and Yuntiani, "It's all flat land within 5,000 miles, and there's no trace of a formation. Let's speed up a little. Otherwise, if they catch up, they'll easily discover us." Night Sorrow, Yaoshi, and Yuntiani were all invincible feather gods. Originally, they could fly very quickly, but when they reached the 23rd floor, they realized that the gravity here was different from the god realm. They could only jump, and they couldn't fly stably at all. So they quickly ran into the distance. This floor is much wider than the 3rd floor. After traveling about 30,000 miles into the depths of the 23rd floor, Night Sorrow saw a towering mountain peak. After climbing up with Yaoshi and Yuntiani, he saw an extremely vast scene. Below the mountain peak was a long river that stretched for tens of thousands of miles. On the other side of the river was the boundless Kuei forest. These Kuei trees were not densely distributed, but each of them reached straight into the clouds. They covered a very large area, and the spirit chi between the trees was very dense. It was almost impossible to see through the branches and leaves. This forest seems to be able to completely block the divine soul power. I can't detect far at all. Night Sorrow had been using the sea serpent eye to observe the Kuei forest in front of them. Yaoshi, who was beside him, suddenly spoke. She wanted to use her divine soul power to detect whether there was danger in the Kuei forest, but she realized that her divine soul power could only detect the edge of the Kuei forest. It couldn't penetrate into the forest at all. This made her somewhat fearful of the unknown Kuei forest. She was afraid that there was a crisis that they couldn't deal with. If it can really block the divine soul power, then we can hide inside and wait for Chen Qiuyue and the others to catch up. Then we can launch a sneak attack. That way, we might be able to kill one or two of them. Hearing Yaoshi say that the Kuei forest could block the divine soul power, Night Sorrow immediately investigated. When he found that the truth was the same as what Yaoshi said, he couldn't help but smile. He secretly thought that there was a silver lining in the dark. He said, "We'll wait for Chen Qiuyue and the others on the mountain. If they catch up, we'll immediately cross the river and enter the Kuei forest. I have the sea serpent eye, so I have a great advantage in the Kuei forest." Okay. Yaoshi didn't say much. She could feel confidence from Night Sorrow's calmness. They're here. They've caught up. Are we going to enter the Kuei forest? Not long after, Yuntiani, who had been looking into the distance, discovered the figures of Chen Qiuyue and the others. Leave them a shadow. Let's enter the Kuei forest. While waiting, Night Sorrow had been using the sea serpent eye to observe the Kuei forest on the other side of the river to see if there was any danger inside. He didn't find anything unusual in the area he was looking at, so he asked Yaoshi and Yuntiani to follow him across the river and enter the Kuei forest. They've entered the 23rd level just as Fairy Qiuyue expected, but it seems a little strange. Is there a trap? Seeing Night Sorrow and the others disappear from the mountain peak, Nie Qingping suddenly felt that something was wrong. He felt that Night Sorrow and the others were deliberately waiting for them. I underestimated Night Sorrow just now, so I lost Suaheng and Yinjianan. This time, we'll all go out. They're definitely no match for us. Also, use the things I gave you when you have the chance. Don't hold back. As long as we get rid of them, all the resources in the cave abode will belong to us. After losing Suaheng and Yinjianan, Chen Qiuyue was a little annoyed. At the same time, he was a little carried away and focused on killing Night Sorrow. He felt that this time, Night Sorrow was in the way. If it weren't for him, he would have taken control of the situation. Night Sorrow has the power of merit. It won't be easy to deal with someone like him. We have to be very careful. We can't fall into his trap. Huang Lai, who originally wanted to form a good relationship with Night Sorrow, was a little regretful and a little afraid. Suaheng and Yan Jiannan, who were in the top 20 and top 30 of the God of Feathers list, had both been killed. While chasing, he felt a sense of danger. He was afraid that Yi Shang would disregard everything and kill him in a battle. I'll fight at the front and do my best to protect you. Chen Qiuyue, who sensed that the team's morale was shaky, frowned. She could feel Huang Lai's anxiety from the bottom of his heart. In fact, Huang Lai wasn't the only one who felt guilty. Ji Hao and Lung Ningxin, who had lost to Night Sorrow before, were also very nervous. Chen Qiuyue was very strong. It wouldn't be easy for Yao Shi and Night Sorrow to kill her. Nie Qingping had the Heaven's Inquisition bell and the defensive robe to protect him. It wouldn't be easy to kill him. When the battle started, the weaker ones would be in an awkward position. Xian, or if the battle starts, we have to protect ourselves. If the situation goes south, we have to retreat immediately. This cave abode's opportunity might not be ours. Ji Hao transmitted to Lung Ningxin while chasing after Kuei Shulin. He felt that he was in a dilemma. He wanted to retreat, but he was afraid that Chen Qiuyue would target him. Huang Lai and Yin Songping were also talking. They had originally come to fight for the opportunity, but now it seemed that they had become cannon fodder. Chapter 25-20. Be careful, everyone. This Kuei Shulin is a bit weird. Night Sorrow, who was walking in the front, observed the front with the Mirage Dragon's eye and didn't see anything unusual. However, in his heart, a strange sense of danger suddenly rose. It's so quiet that it's creepy. Where should we hide? After they entered the locust tree forest, the white mist was very thick and blocked their soul power, which made Yun Tianyi very uncomfortable. He meant that they should hide somewhere so that they could target Chen Qiuyue. And the others better. Let's go deeper. They must be very vigilant at the edge. Don't go more than 100 kilometers away from me. The spiritual energy here is too strong, and it blocks our soul power. It's easy to get separated. Night Sorrow explained as they walked deeper into the locust tree forest. He felt that as long as Yao Shi and Yun Tianyi were in his sight, the three of them wouldn't get separated. However, as they walked, Night Sorrow realized that something was wrong. Yao Shi and Yun Tianyi, who were next to him a moment ago, suddenly disappeared. The locust tree in front of him kept changing its position, as if it were teleporting. A trapping array. The locust trees immediately formed a trapping array when they moved. The two of them must have been trapped by the locust trees too. Observing Night Sorrow with the Mirage Dragon's eye, he knew that he couldn't panic if he wanted to break the array. He calmed himself down and analyzed the patterns of the locust tree's changes. Huh. Yao Shi, why aren't you wearing any clothes? All of a sudden, Yishang saw Yao Shi's figure sway as she walked out of the forest, completely naked. Even her feet were bare, and they squeaked when she stepped on the fallen leaves. Chen Qiuyue? Following behind Yao Shi was Chen Qiuyue, who was also naked. She also had a lustful look on her face and swayed seductively as she walked. Lung Ningxin. That was not the end of it. A moment later, even Lung Ningxin came forward naked. Following behind them were hundreds and thousands of gorgeous beauties. Each and every one of them was incomparably alluring. Illusion, this is definitely an illusion. Break for me. Night Sorrow, who had been absent-minded for a short while, immediately shook his soul and tried to dispel these strange images. However, it was to no avail. Come on. Night Sorrow, possess me. No, Night Sorrow, come and take me. Hold me tight. The coquettish voice kept ringing in Night Sorrow's heart. It was very seductive and brought him a lot of disturbance. After resisting for a while, Night Sorrow suddenly thought of an array formation. He immediately shivered and woke up. 5 elements scholar flower formation. This kind of array formation would continuously turn trees into beautiful women, tempting cultivators with weak willpower. It would cause their thoughts to turn into lust, and from lust to lust, and from lust to burn their bodies. In the end, they would die extremely miserably. This was a very famous trap array, the 5 elements scholar flower formation. Cultivators who had experienced the affairs of men and women would all fall for it. Demons and monsters, break for me. How dare you do this? After waking up, Night Sorrow realized that the divine essence he had supplied to the sea serpent eye was a little insufficient. He immediately gathered the divine essence for the sea serpent eye to absorb. When the divine essence was completely absorbed by the sea serpent eye, Night Sorrow, who saw the scene in front of him, immediately shouted. There were no beauties around him. All of them were tree roots and branches that wrapped around him. At this moment, he had already been wrapped up like a dumpling. These things are so tough. I can't break free at all. Night Sorrow, who wanted to break free immediately, realized that the roots and branches of these scholar trees were as tough as half-step Divine Lord Bone Apes. He could not break free at all with his physical strength. This won't do. Samsara halberd, burn for me. Since he could not break free with his physical strength, Night Sorrow immediately let the Samsara halberd ignite flames on its own. After being burned by the flames, these tree roots and branches loosened slightly, but did not completely loosen. It's effective. Continue to increase the flames of the Samsara halberd, and use the power of the Bone Ape's energy crystal core. After realizing that the flames had some effect, Night Sorrow continued to activate the Samsara halberd. He knew that the divine essence contained in the Bone Ape's energy crystal core was very terrifying. It was not something that the Samsara halberd could consume in a short period of time. He let the Samsara halberd use the divine essence in the energy crystal core directly. After being strengthened by the divine essence in the energy crystal core, the grade of the flames immediately reached the half-step Divine Lord level. After being burned by such strong flames, the tree roots and branches that bound Night Sorrow dissipated instantly. If I did not obtain the Bone Ape's energy crystal core, I'm afraid this stage would be very difficult. The Bone Ape's essence energy crystal core is so useful. The Divine Soul crystal core should also be put to good use. Night Sorrow, who knew that it was very difficult to break the 5 elements Sephora flower array, immediately looked for Yao Shi and Yun Tianyi after escaping. As for the Bone Ape's energy crystal core, he only thought about it briefly and did not think much about it. After walking for a short distance, he saw Yao Shi, who was dressed in white, coming from afar. Yao Shi had actually escaped from the array. She must be someone with a strong will and special means. In fact, Yao Shi was immersed in swordsmanship and had never experienced the affairs between men and women. The 5 elements Sephora flower array did not affect her much. I'm here. Yao Shi, stay where you are and wait for me. Seeing Yao Shi walking in the forest in a daze, Night Sorrow quickly rushed over. Did you encounter that kind of trap array? Yao Shi, who was in the fog, immediately asked when she saw Night Sorrow rushing over. I did, but I have already broken it. Let's go and find Yun Tianyi now. Are you injured? Yun Tianyi was the weakest among the 3 of them. Night Sorrow was a little worried that he would not be able to break the trap array. I'm not injured, but I used a half-step Divine Lord talisman. Yao Shi explained. Her talisman happened to be of the fire attribute. It burned all the roots and branches that trapped her. It's good that you're not injured. Chen Qiuyue and the others have probably already entered the forest. Let's be careful. Night Sorrow activated the sea serpent's eye. It released a ray of light in the fog, allowing him to see the scenery hundreds of miles away. However, after searching for thousands of miles, he did not find Yun Tianyi. Could something have happened to Tianyi? Night Sorrow and Yao Shi did not find it difficult to break the 5 elements Sephora flower array, but Yun Tianyi might not be able to do so. He was a little worried. I hope he's fine. After all, they were friends who had fought side by side. Yao Shi was a little sad that Yun Tianyi was nowhere to be seen. It seems to be Huang Lai and Yin Songping ahead. They have been trapped by the 5 elements Sephora flower array. At that moment, Night Sorrow suddenly saw Huang Lai and Yin Songping being tied up by roots and branches dozens of miles away. They were hanging in midair. Good opportunity. Let's kill them. If we kill the 2 of them, the gap in strength between us and Chen Qiuyue's camp will be even smaller. Upon hearing Night Sorrow's words, Yao Shi immediately released killing intent as she drew her frost brow sword. Let's go. Follow me. Be careful. While rushing towards Huang Lai and Yin Songping, Night Sorrow used the sea serpent's eye to observe carefully. He did not wish to encounter a sneak attack from Chen Qiuyue and the others. Chen Qiuyue and the others are not nearby. Let's go over. After confirming that there was no ambush, Night Sorrow brought Yao Shi to where Huang Lai and Yin Songping were hanging. It seems that we don't have to do anything. They can't break the 5 elements Sephora flower array at all. When they approached, Yao Shi, who originally wanted to attack immediately, grasped the hilt of her frost brow sword, but did not attack. Although she was decisive in killing, She could not bear to kill cultivators who had no ability to resist at all. Samsara halberd burn. Yaoshi did not attack, but Night Sorrow brandished the Samsara halberd. He did not kill Huang Lai and Yin Sungping but used flames to save them. Chapter 25-21. Night Sorrow. Yaoshi, did the two of you save us? Huang Lai, who had been saved by Night Sorrow, immediately took a few steps back when he saw Night Sorrow and Yaoshi standing in front of him. However, there was no one else around. He immediately understood who had saved him. I saved the two of you. I've completely repaid the karma between the two of you. You can leave now. The next time we meet, we will fight to the death. Yi Shang narrowed his deep eyes. He glanced at Huang Lai and then at Yin Sungping. Although the two of them had joined Chen Qiuyue's side at the crucial moment, they had still helped him stop the skeletal puppets. Now that he had repaid this favor, Night Sorrow had repaid the karma between them. The abnormality in his power of virtue made him value karma even more. You actually let us go so easily. However, thanks. We will leave the cave immediately. Night Sorrow's words surprised Huang Lai. He had not expected such an outcome and sighed. After all, he was an expert on the God of Feathers list. Since Night Sorrow had let him go, Huang Lai decided to voluntarily withdraw from the cave. Yin Songping, who was beside him, had a strange expression. He opened his mouth but did not say anything. You can leave, but he must die. After Huang Lai finished speaking, Night Sorrow suddenly used the Divine Essence Dragon Locking Array to bind Yin Songping. Then he used the Samsara halberd to attack. Following that, he used the Forbidden Spear. He pierced Yin Songping's Dantian and Spirit Sea, destroying his soul. Throughout the entire process, Yin Songping only let out a few screams. He did not even have the chance to retaliate. Night Sorrow, you went back on your words. I'll kill you. Seeing Yin Songping killed instantly, Huang Lai immediately became furious. Yin Songping was his old partner, but he had been killed on the spot. Huang Lai lost control and attacked. I'm not going back on my words. I've already let the two of you go, but he poisoned us. Therefore he must die. Night Sorrow blocked Huang Lai's attack and said coldly, if it weren't for the fact that I can see through all falsehoods, I would definitely have been hit. If I see you again in the cave, I will kill you on the spot. Just now, Night Sorrow had already made his stance clear. Yin Songping even crushed the poison pill that Chen Qiuyue had given him with his fingertips. If Night Sorrow didn't have the sea serpent's eye to see through the spreading poison gas, he and Yaoshi would have been poisoned. The furious Huang Lai immediately calmed down after hearing those words. After a moment of silence, he looked at Night Sorrow and said, he only has himself to blame for poisoning you and getting killed. If you let me go this time, I won't stay in the cave anymore. Also, let me remind you that there is a Sir God waiting for you outside the cave abode. He seems to be from the Inying Hall. A divine lord from Inying Hall. It seems like Ling Xiaoye from Inying Hall found out about what happened to Feng Xiaoyun. Then she invited a Sir God to deal with me. Huang Lai's words reminded Night Sorrow of the Sir God that he and Yun Tianyi met outside the cave abode. So that Sir God was here for him. If Feng Xiaoyun's matter is exposed, won't my Dark Moon clan be in big trouble? Jing Yin alone can't fight a Sir God. Now, I can only hope that there is only one Sir God, and that he has been waiting for me. Thinking of this, Night Sorrow was very worried about the safety of his clansmen. His hair stood on end. Become stronger. Only by becoming stronger can I solve the problem in front of me. Night Sorrow, who originally wanted to leave the cave abode immediately to check on his clansman's situation, thought for a moment and felt that he would be courting death if he went out now because he didn't have the ability to fight a Sir God. Endless fighting spirit gathered in his body as he looked at Yaoshi and said, Yaoshi, my family is in danger. I have to increase my strength quickly. I am going to fight the immortal generals from the 3rd level to the 33rd level. Are you coming with me? At this moment, Night Sorrow's mentality changed. He was worried about his family and wanted to speed up the pace in the cave abode. As for Chen Qiuyue and the others, no matter who it was, he would definitely choose to fight to the death as long as they tried to stop him. Let's go. Night Sorrow's fighting spirit soared to the sky. Yaoshi was obviously affected. She could clearly feel the change in Night Sorrow's mentality, and knew that he would choose to fight to the death if anyone tried to stop him. Her answer was very simple. She only had one word. Okay. I have decided that you are my friend. Even if I leave the cave abode, I will be there as long as you need me. With his family in danger, Night Sorrow didn't have the mentality to escape an ambush. He didn't even want to look for Yun Tianyi anymore. Night Sorrow, if you trust me, can you bring me along? I can swear to the heavenly Tao that I will never target you. Night Sorrow's soaring fighting spirit even made Huang Lai's blood boil. He really wanted to join him. Since you told me this information, I'll let bygones be bygones. Let's go together. However, I won't give up anything that can increase my strength. Looking at Night Sorrow in the distance, he nodded and took the lead. Of course. I just want to help you and form good karma. Last time, I chose the wrong side. I won't do it again. Night Sorrow's sorrowful fighting spirit greatly affected Huang Lai. He felt that even if a divine lord, the divine king, or even a god stood in front of him, Night Sorrow wouldn't back down. After that, Night Sorrow, Yao Shi, and Huang Lai walked out of the locust tree forest and left the 23rd level. He planned to quickly kill divine generals on the 3rd level and obtain cultivation resources to increase his strength. He also wanted to get the letter from the cave abode as soon as possible and complete Long Tianqing's task. We didn't see Chen Qiuyue and the others in the locust tree forest. Let's be careful. Huang Lai reminded them as they walked up the stairs to the 3rd level. No worries. We'll just fight if we meet them. Night Sorrow replied. His fighting spirit turned into armor and merged with the Blue Phoenix battle armor. After the fusion, the Blue Phoenix battle armor shone with a deep black light. This black light flickered as if it was breathing. The grade of the armor was that of a high god, not far from the half-step divine lord level. It was even stronger than the undamaged Blue Phoenix battle armor. Alright. In any case, there aren't many people left in Chen Qiuyue's camp. Huang Lai nodded. Although Night Sorrow's fighting spirit had turned into armor and merged with the Blue Phoenix battle armor, he was like a god of war. This gave him a lot of confidence. He felt that he had made a huge mistake in choosing to join Chen Qiuyue's camp. There are sounds of fighting again. It seems that the divine generals on the 3rd level have been attacked again. I wonder who is attacking this time. The 3 of them had just reached the 3rd level when they heard the sounds of fighting coming from the area where the divine generals were. Hearing the sounds of fighting, Night Sorrow, Yao Shi, and Huang Lai immediately rushed to where the divine generals were. At this time, Yao Shi transmitted her voice to Night Sorrow. If you encounter trouble that you can't solve, I can go back to the Tianxian school and ask for help. In response, Night Sorrow rejected. I'm already very grateful that you're willing to fight by my side. I'll feel bad if I have to trouble you again. Alright. We'll talk about the outside matters after we get out. Let's deal with the matter at hand first. Chapter 25-22. The sounds of battle coming from the divine general's area grew louder and louder. Hearing the divine general's sorrowful roar, Huang Lai, who had fought with the divine general before, immediately reminded him. This roar means that the divine general has been killed several times. Let's hurry over. Otherwise, we won't make it in time. Alright, let's hurry up. Also, we don't know who's fighting the divine general, so be careful. Night Sorrow reminded them as they moved toward the divine general's area. Jinyuan Divine Lord's abode didn't have any restrictions on who could enter, so there might be others who'd come later. Don't worry. The only one who can pose a threat to us is Chen Qiuyue. The few of them might not be a match for us now. As the 9th-ranked expert on the Feather God list, Yao Shi was very confident in her safety. We can't be careless. I don't think it's Chen Qiuyue and the others who are fighting the divine general. Night Sorrow felt that something was off because Chen Qiuyue and the others had entered the locust tree forest together. They shouldn't have returned so quickly and beaten up the divine general so badly. Yes, we entered the forest together and encountered that trap formation not long after. I'm guessing that even if Chen Qiuyue and Nie Qingping can escape, Ji Hao and Lung Ningxin might not be able to, added Huang Lai. That's true. The old locust trees in the forest have extremely tough roots and branches. They won't be that easy to break. As Night Sorrow spoke, the three of them were already very close to the Divine General's area. Huang Lai reminded them, if we want to kill the Divine General, we need to enter its space. It's a bit like a cave and isn't very big. It won't be easy to dodge and might test our close combat abilities. Alright. In that case I'll go first. My body is as strong as a god's. Huang Lai's information was very useful. Night Sorrow immediately took 2 steps forward and entered the Divine General's area in front of the other 2. Follow behind me. After Night Sorrow entered the Divine General room, Yaoshi said something to Huang Lai and immediately followed him. Huang Lai, who was familiar with this, naturally followed them in. Entering the Divine General room, the scenery in front of him was clear at a glance. It was a grayish-brown world. Both the walls and the floor of the cave residence were made of rocks that looked like yellow mud. At this moment, in the center of the cave abode that was only 100 square miles in radius, a man and a woman of the Divine Feather Realm were fighting a Divine General, who was wearing black and red armor and wielding 2 sabers. He looked like an Azura. These were 2 unfamiliar faces that weren't on the feather list. Not only did Night Sorrow not recognize them, but even Yaoshi and Huang Lai had no impression of them. Yaoshi, ranked 9th on the Goddess of Feathers list, and Huang Lai ranked 41st. Why are you rushing into the Divine General's room at this time? Are you here to snatch the opportunity? If that's the case, I advise you to hurry up and get lost. Before Night Sorrow and the others could speak, the male cultivator in silver-white armor spoke coldly. He wasn't on the feather list and recognized Yaoshi and Huang Lai, but he didn't give them any face at all and directly scolded them. Who are you? How dare you insult Fairy Yaoshi? Do you want to die? Night Sorrow and Yaoshi didn't speak, but Huang Lai immediately retorted. Haha. Do we want to die? Huang Lai, can't you see the difference in strength from the aura we emit during the battle? While fighting the Divine General, the male cultivator laughed arrogantly. Then he turned to look at the crowd and said, Listen up, my name is Wen Liangyu. This is my senior sister, Fairy Bailuo. If you don't want to die, hurry up and get out. You're asking us to get lost repeatedly. How arrogant of you. Night Sorrow, whose battle intent had not only condensed into substance but also turned into armor, sneered when he heard Wen Liangyu's words. He held the Samsara halberd horizontally in his hand and prepared to attack immediately. Get lost? That's targeted at Yaoshi and Huang Lai on the feather list. Middle-level feather god trash, like you should just go to hell. Wen Liangyu was very confident in his and Fairy Bailuo's strength. He didn't even take Yaoshi seriously. He was really arrogant. Wen Liangyu didn't even look back during the battle. He used the power of his divine soul to lock onto Night Sorrow and casually shot out a thick thunderbolt full of energy. After this thunderbolt was shot out, it immediately locked onto Night Sorrow and struck at him fiercely. You don't know what's good for you. Since you want to fight, I'll naturally accompany you. Night Sorrow had never been afraid of thunderbolts ever since he started cultivating. Facing Wen Liangyu's thunderbolt, he didn't dodge at all and used his body to withstand it. After withstanding this attack, Night Sorrow waved the Samsara halberd and directly used the Samsara strike. Oh, you're Night Sorrow. Haha, it's really you. This time, I've really searched high and low for you, only to find you without any effort. When Liangyu noticed that Night Sorrow had used his body to withstand the thunderbolt and was completely fine, he was a little surprised. However, after seeing Night Sorrow clearly, he immediately laughed and said, Night Sorrow, oh Night Sorrow, we entered the cave abode this time with the goal of killing you. I didn't expect you to deliver yourself to me. When Liangyu waved the warhammer in his hand and faced him head-on, there was a loud rumble. Night Sorrow's Samsara halberd and Wen Liangyu's warhammer collided. Night Sorrow didn't use his full strength at all, but he still forced his opponent back. With your strength, what right do you have to look down on Fairy Yaoshi? What right do you have to say that you want to kill me? According to Night Sorrow's judgment, Wen Liangyu's strength was at the level of someone who had just entered the God of Feathers list. He was about the same level as Yun Tianyi before she entered the cave abode. Night Sorrow, go to hell. A mere mid-level God of Feathers dares to plot against the Shadow Pavilion's property. I really don't know what you're thinking. Do you know who's behind the scenes in the Shadow Pavilion? At this moment, when Liang Yu, whose aura was originally very ordinary, suddenly revealed a trace of viciousness. He no longer concealed his powerful aura and instantly raised it to the level of Nie Qingping. At the same time, he threw away the war hammer in his hand and pulled out a soft sword from his waist. He stabbed at Night Sorrow with a frightening aura. "So you're from the Shadow Pavilion? I'll capture you alive and ask you some questions." Facing Wen Liang Yu's sword, Night Sorrow still didn't feel much pressure. According to his judgment, Wen Liang Yu's strength should be about the same as Nie Qingping's. He definitely wasn't in the top 10 of the God of Feathers list. Upon hearing that he was from the Shadow Pavilion, Night Sorrow immediately became energized. He was prepared to capture him alive and ask him about the situation outside to see if his family was targeted. "Yao Shi, Huang Lai, the two of you go and snatch the Divine General. I'll deal with him." Chapter 25-23. On the other side, Yao Shi and Huang Lai went to stop Wen Liang Yu's senior sister, Fairy Bai Luo, from attacking the Divine General. They didn't want her to take all the benefits from killing the Divine General. "Are you Yao Shi? You have some strength, but you don't have the right to represent the Dark Moon's Feather God region. All these years, you and Chen Chuyue couldn't even enter the top 5 of the Feather God list. You're a disgrace to the Lord Ruler. From today onwards, I will replace you and bring glory to the Dark Moon's ruler region." After being attacked by Yao Shi and Huang Lai, Fairy Bai Luo gave up on attacking the Divine General. She sent a palm strike at Huang Lai, wanting to kill him instantly. However, Yao Shi blocked it with her frost brow sword. Goddess Bai Luo, who had her move blocked, revealed a cold smirk on her face, and then mocked Yao Shi. "I, Yao Shi, only represent myself. What does the Dark Moon ruler have to do with me?" Fairy Bai Luo's words made Yao Shi very unhappy. Although she was in the Dark Moon's ruler region, she didn't think of herself as a member of the Dark Moon. Bastard! Every cultivator and resource in the Dark Moon's ruler region belongs to the Lord Ruler. Yao Shi's words also made Fairy Bai Luo very unhappy. In reality, the Shadow Pavilion was an industry controlled by the Dark Moon ruler's manor. It was a powerful force in the Dark Moon's ruler region. She, Fairy Bai Luo, was the strongest feather god nurtured by the Shadow Pavilion. She respected the Dark Moon ruler from the bottom of her heart and viewed him as a god. "I am me. I don't belong to anyone. Neither the Divine King nor the Lord Ruler can control my fate." Fairy Bai Luo's words made Yao Shi think that she must be related to the Lord Ruler's manor. Although Yao Shi was afraid, she didn't take a step back. This was her cold pride. "Since you don't want to be controlled, I'll destroy you on behalf of the Lord Ruler." Fairy Bai Luo claimed to be the representative of the Dark Moon ruler. As she spoke, she used a 9-section whip woven from a true dragon's reverse scale to attack Yao Shi. It's hard to say who will destroy who. Facing Fairy Bai Luo's 9-section whip, the cold and arrogant Yao Shi immediately counterattacked with the frost brow sword. Fairy Bai Luo had the right to be arrogant. She was much stronger than Wen Liang Yu. She had just confronted Yao Shi and gained the upper hand. Now you can see the difference in strength. Fairy Bai Luo's divine essence energy was clearly more robust than Yao Shi's, occupying the upper hand in terms of strength. Say that again after you leave this place alive. Yao Shi was clear that her divine energy was weaker than her opponent's. However, she was clear that her advantage was her unstoppable sword intent. She immediately used a secret technique to raise her aura a little, and used her ultimate skill, the mysterious heavenly immortal slaying sword. They turned into shadows and slashed at Fairy Bai Luo. "This is your Tianxian school's mysterious heavenly immortal slaying sword, right? It looks good, but compared to the ultimate skills from the sovereign's residence, it's pitifully crude." Facing Yao Shi's mysterious heavenly immortal slaying sword, a trace of disdain appeared on Fairy Bai Luo's originally arrogant face. Then she used her ultimate skill to fight back. The ultimate skill she used was indeed more exquisite than Yao Shi's. She once again suppressed Yao Shi. However, she only had a slight upper hand and did not pose a fatal threat to Yao Shi. While the two of them were locked in a stalemate, Night Sorrow and Wen Liang Yu had already fought back and forth several times. Wen Liang Yu's strength was not bad, but it was not enough for Night Sorrow. He wanted to capture him alive and did not kill him. At this point in the battle, when Liang Yu had already suffered serious injuries, this made him, who was arrogant, very angry. He scolded coldly, "Traitor Knight Sorrow, you dare to seek the sovereign's residence's property. You will definitely die miserably." Fairy Bai Luo casually told him some things about the sovereign's residence, so when Liang Yu did not hide it anymore. However, he was no match for Knight Sorrow at all. This sense of defeat made him very uncomfortable. "From the moment you saw me, you kept fighting with your mouth. If you only have the ability to fight with your mouth, then hurry up and surrender. What's the use of using the sovereign's residence's name? Not everyone will submit to the sovereign." After testing out when Liang Yu's true strength, Knight Sorrow suddenly used the Divine Essence Dragon Locking Array to control him. He ignored him for the time being and waved the Samsara Heavenly Halberd to attack Fairy Bai Luo, who was suppressing Yao Shi. They wanted to quickly get rid of Fairy Bai Luo in a 2-on-1 battle. At this moment, Yao Shi, who was slightly at a disadvantage, stopped them coldly. "Knight Sorrow, I have my own dignity. I will deal with her myself. You and Huang Lai go kill the Divine General together." At this moment, the Divine General was being restrained by Huang Lai. It was a little difficult for Huang Lai, who was restraining the Divine General alone. All right. Wen Liangyu was very confident, but his strength was about the same as Nie Qingping's. It was not easy to break the Divine Essence Dragon Locking Array in a short time. Hearing Yao Shi's words, Knight Sorrow and Huang Lai fought together with the Divine General that looked like an Azura. The Divine General guarding the third floor was not something ordinary feather gods could deal with. However, it was not too strong for such an invincible feather god. However, it was very resistant. Knight Sorrow and Huang Lai attacked it continuously, but they could not kill it. During this process, the Divine General's body exploded 6 times. However, it successfully reassembled each time. After reassembling, its strength would increase slightly. Just as the Divine General's body was shattered and reassembled for the 7th time, when Liangyu, who was restrained by the Divine Essence Dragon Locking Array, and had no way of breaking out, couldn't take it anymore. He used the half-step Divine Lord level Divine Talisman on him to blow up the sealed space formed by the array formation. You want to snatch the Divine General? Dream on. Yishang, prepare to die. When Liangyu, who had escaped, immediately took out another half-step Divine Lord level Divine Talisman, and was about to throw it at the spot where Knight Sorrow and the Divine General were fighting. If you don't want your soul to be destroyed by the Divine Talisman, stand there obediently and don't move. Looking at the half-step Divine Lord level Divine Talisman in Wen Liangyu's hand, Knight Sorrow took out a true Divine Lord level Divine Talisman. This was what he had obtained when he killed Zhuaheng. Although it wasn't from an invincible Divine Lord, it was enough to deter Wen Liangyu. Wen Liangyu was clearly stunned when he saw Knight Sorrow take out a Divine Lord level Divine Talisman. The moment the Divine Lord level Divine Talisman was taken out, the Divine Talisman in his hand immediately turned to trash. Divine Essence Dragon Locking Array. After taking out the Divine Talisman to deter Wen Liangyu, Knight Sorrow used the Divine Essence Dragon Locking Array again to restrain him before continuing to attack the Divine General. From Knight Sorrow's point of view, Wen Liangyu was no match for him at all. There was no need to waste too much time with him. This was a contempt that came from the bottom of his heart. Wen Liangyu, who understood this, was very angry to be trapped in the array formation. However, he didn't use the Divine Talisman again. This was because he knew that the value of a Divine Talisman was much higher than Divine Essence energy. Now he had placed his hopes on the World Jade Snail. At that moment, the battle between Yao Shi and Jade Snail was becoming more and more intense. In the beginning, Jade Snail had an obvious advantage. However, after Yao Shi went all out, the battle immediately became evenly matched. Jade Snail, who was still a little arrogant, couldn't help but use her full strength and ignore everything else. When Liangyu was trapped while Jade Snail and Yao Shi were locked in a fierce battle, Knight Sorrow and Huang Lai seized the opportunity to continue attacking the third-level Divine General. Finally, the Divine General was no longer reborn after being destroyed for the 9th time. Instead, it turned into piles of rewards. Chapter 25-24. There were piles of rewards, totaling up to 14 or 15 piles, all of which were dazzling with golden light. Most of them were high-quality divine crystals. These divine crystals were on a different level from the ones circulating in Hebei City. They were very suitable for cultivation. In one of the piles, there were not only divine crystals but also a key fragment. Knight Sorrow's eyes lit up when he saw the key fragment. He stepped forward and put it away. At this point, he had already collected 3/4 of the key fragments in his hand. Although he didn't know what the key was for now, Knight Sorrow felt that Divine Lord Jin Yuan must have his reasons for designing these fragments. After putting away the key fragment, Knight Sorrow looked at the other rewards. However, before he had time to look at them, Biluo suddenly struck out. She and Yao Shi were locked in a fierce battle. She didn't want Knight Sorrow and Huang Lai to benefit, and wanted to destroy all the rewards. You and your junior brother are the same. Both of you are overconfident. Knight Sorrow didn't feel any pressure when facing Biluo's divine essence. He immediately used the Samsara halberd to dissolve it. Humph. After I finish off Yao Shi, I'll kill you. Even a divine lord or the divine king will have to pay the price for offending us, let alone a feather god like you. Biluo's mission was the same as when Liang Yu's. They were to enter the cave abode and find Knight Sorrow to capture or kill him. However, when she saw Yao Shi, who was ranked in the top 10 of the feather god list, she, as a woman, wanted to defeat Yao Shi, who was a feather god in the Dark Moon's territory. However, Yao Shi's combat power and tenacity were clearly beyond her imagination. The two of them were still unable to defeat each other. Biluo couldn't care about anything else. Knight Sorrow and Huang Lai were able to study the rewards of the third-grade divine generals in peace. Most of the rewards were divine crystals. In addition, there were god-level offensive and defensive divine artifacts. These divine artifacts were of good quality, and were considered rare among the god level. However, to an invincible feather god, they weren't special. This reward seems a little bad. It's not even as good as my equipment. Huang Lai did not know the value of the key fragment that Knight Sorrow had picked up. As for the other items, he felt that they were of average value. There was nothing that could make him envious. Maybe the rewards for the next few divine generals will be better. After all, the 3rd floor is just the beginning for the Temple of the 33 Days. Knight Sorrow, on the other hand, felt that this was a decent harvest. There were quite a lot of divine crystals, but he didn't take them. The battle was still going on, and he couldn't absorb and refine them. Therefore, he didn't bother with them. He returned to the trapped one Liang Yu and transmitted his voice. Answer my question, or your soul will perish. Did the Dark Shadow Pavilion target my family? Bah. Kill me if you can. After you kill me, you will understand what crazy revenge is. When Liang Yu, who was trapped in the formation, was very stubborn. He scoffed at Knight Sorrow's question, and did not answer it properly. I think you won't cry until you see the coffin. Although Knight Sorrow was the feather god of merit, he was also very decisive when it came to killing. Worried about his family, he immediately used the Samsara halberd to shoot out a flame and burn Wen Liangyu, who was trapped in the Divine Essence dragon-locking formation. You want to make me submit with this level of flame? Dream on. Wen Liangyu, who was being burned by the flames, smiled disdainfully. He was naturally capable since he could rank in the top 20 of the Feather God list. It's too early for you to be happy. Even your senior sister can't withstand my flame, let alone you. As Knight Sorrow spoke, he used the Samsara halberd to use the power of the Bone Ape Crystal Core to raise the grade of the flame. When the flame reached the half-step Divine Lord grade, Wen Liangyu's expression changed drastically as he screamed miserably in the sealed space. Now you have two choices. The first is to be burned to death. The second is to answer my question. When it came to family, Knight Sorrow didn't hesitate. Your family is just a bunch of ants. Naturally, the ants are responsible for dealing with them. I don't know the exact situation. However, since you have offended the Dark Shadow Pavilion, this matter naturally won't end well. You and your family will all suffer the harshest punishment. Your family members will be tortured to death one by one. The men will have their tendons pulled out and their skin flayed. The women will be abused day and night. Wen Liangyu, who was being burned, cursed viciously. His voice trembled slightly. You were wrong to insult my family. Night Sorrow, who had originally wanted to ask more questions, immediately took out a half-step Divine Lord grade talisman when he heard Wen Liangyu insult his family. He shot it into the sealed space and blasted Wen Liangyu into nothingness. Junior brother. Night Sorrow, how dare you, how dare you? Bai Luo, who had been fighting with Yao Shi, had never imagined that Night Sorrow would use a divine talisman to blast Wen Liangyu into nothingness. She wanted to save him, but it was simply too late. Not only do I dare to kill him, but I also dare to kill you. Furthermore, if anyone from the Dark Shadow Pavilion dares to lay a finger on my family, I will take the most iron-blooded revenge. Yao Shi and Bai Luo had fought for so long without a victor being decided. This proved that their strength was basically on par. Night Sorrow, who was in a hurry to rush to the 13th level, did not want to waste any more time. He sent a voice transmission to Yao Shi. If the two of you continue fighting, it will be a draw. Why don't we kill her together? If she escapes from the cave residence, it might be disadvantageous to my family. From Wen Liangyu's words, Night Sorrow determined that the person whom the Dark Shadow Pavilion had sent to deal with Night Moon's clansmen was definitely not a powerful expert. He was slightly relieved that Jing Yun might be able to deal with her. However, if Bai Luo escaped, it was hard to say if she would bring a divine lord to control his family. Alright, let's quickly finish her off and head to the 13th level. Yao Shi also knew that the battle between her and Bai Luo could not be decided in a short time. There was no need to continue fighting. We will split the rewards equally. Yao Shi, who had been fighting, did not pay attention to the rewards at all. This made Night Sorrow feel a little apologetic. After saying that, he used the Divine Essence Dragon Lock Array on Bai Luo. Night Sorrow knew that Bai Luo's strength was not inferior to Chen Qiuyue. She should be able to break out of the array soon. After using the Divine Essence Dragon Lock Array, he immediately used the Heavenly Samsara Halberd to strike with the Forbidden Spear. At the same time, he approached Bai Luo's location. The Divine General's area was very narrow. He was prepared to rely on his powerful close combat ability to suppress her. Bai Luo's Divine Essence energy was very strong. Night Sorrow was definitely not her match with just his Divine Essence energy. He could not use the power of merit, and could only rely on the support of the Green Phoenix battle armor, and the strength of his body to pressure Bai Luo and cooperate with Yao Shi to kill her. If I encounter an opportunity that I like, I will not be polite. In response to Night Sorrow's words, Yao Shi replied and continued to attack Bai Luo. With the restriction of the Divine Essence Dragon Lock Array, Bai Luo did not have the ability to dodge in a large area in a short time. Although she quickly broke out of the array, she was still hit continuously. Night Sorrow and Yao Shi, who had experienced battle together, knew what each other was good at. They cooperated very well and quickly suppressed Bai Luo to a corner. The strength of Night Sorrow's body allowed him to unleash great power in such a narrow space. Chapter 25-25. A Divine Lord level Divine Talisman was equivalent to a full-powered strike from a Divine Lord. Jade Conch activated the Divine Lord level Divine Talisman in her hand, and immediately aimed her palm at Night Sorrow and struck out. In an instant, an aura that could destroy the heavens and earth for a feather god completely enveloped Night Sorrow. Yao Shi run. Night Sorrow, who had been locked onto by the Divine Talisman, sent a voice transmission to Yao Shi. At the same time, he activated the Divine Talisman on him, and struck out at Jade Conch's Divine Lord attack. If he did not activate the Divine Talisman, he would definitely be reduced to ashes. He thought that he could only risk it. Seeing Night Sorrow activate the Divine Lord level Divine Talisman, Jade Conch's pupils immediately constricted. However, it was too late for her to do anything else. The two massive energies collided, immediately creating a massive shockwave. Two energy ripples visible to the naked eye, like ripples in the water, constantly vibrated. The apocalyptic shockwave nearly destroyed the entire third level of the Temple of the 33 Days before it slowly calmed down. Night Sorrow. Yao Shi, who had just used a mystic technique to escape, returned to the third level from the second level. She was immediately stunned by the scene in front of her. The third level, which was originally filled with spiritual energy, was now charred black and filled with a deathly aura. Yaoshi attempted to send a voice transmission to Night Sorrow, but realized that she was unable to do so. A sense of foreboding flashed through her heart. Furthermore, when she sent out her soul strength, she did not detect any signs of life on the third level. How can this be? In a normal battle, she and Night Sorrow were completely capable of suppressing Jade Conch. But who would have thought that Jade Conch would immediately take out a Divine Lord level Divine Talisman and activate it without hesitation the moment she was at a disadvantage? Yaoshi's face was covered in frost. She unwillingly used the power of her soul to search again and again, trying to find some traces of Yishang's aura. However, after searching the entire third level several times, she did not find anything related to Night Sorrow. Could it have been completely destroyed by the power of the Divine Monarch? That shouldn't be the case. Even if a Sir God's power could destroy Night Sorrow, his Samsara halberd definitely wouldn't be completely destroyed. After pondering for a moment, Yaoshi felt that something was amiss. However, she couldn't find any clues at all, so she could only give up. She calmed herself down and continued to search for opportunities. On the road of cultivation, she had lost too many companions and had long been accustomed to this rhythm. Just as Yaoshi suspected, Night Sorrow was still alive. It wasn't just him, Bai Luo and Huang Lai weren't dead either. The three of them appeared in the same space. This space was somewhat similar to the Divine General area on the third floor, but it was dozens of times larger. Furthermore, there was also an Azura Divine General with 2 blades. Its aura was clearly stronger than the third floor Divine General's. The Azura Divine General's aura was very strong, but its soul seemed very weak. It wasn't too far away, but it did not discover Night Sorrow, Huang Lai, or Bai Luo. Brother Yi, have we been teleported to the 13th or 23rd level? Huang Lai, who was leaning against the wall to recover, sent a voice transmission. He felt that his guess was probably correct. It's possible. However, I think there's another possibility. The collision of the Divine Talismans has activated the hidden area and the hidden Divine General. Night Sorrow, who was recovering his aura, was severely injured in the collision of the Divine Talismans. He had not recovered even after consuming several pills. Once I recover, I'll immediately kill the 2 of you. At that moment, Bai Luo was also severely injured. She was recovering in another corner of the space. When the Divine Monarch Divine Talismans collided, she was the closest to Night Sorrow and was severely injured. In comparison, Huang Lai's injuries were much lighter. In Bai Luo's view, now that Yaoshi was not here, Night Sorrow and Huang Lai were simply no match for her. This was not because she was arrogant. In terms of strength, Night Sorrow, who could not use his virtue energy, would find it very difficult to fight against her. It's good to be confident, but we can't be sure who will kill who. Night Sorrow's strength was indeed inferior to Bai Luo's, but it was impossible for him to give up resisting. After replying, he began to think of a way to become stronger. Without a doubt, once Bai Luo completely recovered, she would immediately attack. If he could not think of a countermeasure at that time, the situation would not be easy to resolve. Right now, the trump cards he could use were the half-step Divine Monarch Flames of the Samsara Halberd and the 7-star Violent Alcade. In addition, he could also study the Soul Crystal Core he obtained from the Bone Ape. Brother Yi, I have the crystal core left behind by the 9 dragons. I successfully refined it that day, but I did not absorb the energy within. At this moment, Huang Lai took out the 9-dragon crystal core he obtained from killing the Bone Ape. After unbinding it, he handed it to Night Sorrow. He knew the current situation and took it out even though he was reluctant. Okay, I'll try to refine and absorb it. You should quickly recover. In this situation, Night Sorrow did not stand on ceremony with Huang Lai. He took the crystal core and immediately tried to refine it. Huang Lai said, "My injuries are not serious. Absorb it well. I'll think of a way to interfere with Bai Luo and prevent her from recovering smoothly. I'll absorb it as soon as possible." After refining it, Night Sorrow found that the crystal core contained extremely pure divine yuan qi. He immediately used the immortal divine art to madly absorb it. After about half a month, he completely absorbed the energy within the crystal core and raised his cultivation to the peak of the middle-level feather god level. The injuries on his body were also more or less healed. At this moment, Night Sorrow felt that the opportunity to advance had arrived. His cultivation would soon reach the high-level Feather God level. My cultivation is about to reach the high-level Feather God level. I can clearly feel that I will face a divine tribulation. Why did I not face a divine tribulation when I broke through to the middle-level Feather God level? Is it related to the so-called creation of heaven and earth? Or is it related to the snatching of the world origin reward? Night Sorrow's power of virtue had already reached the peak of the Feather God level. Under its guidance, his cultivation increased very smoothly. He clearly sensed that the divine tribulation was about to come. This reminded him of the last time he advanced, when he did not face a divine tribulation. However, he could not understand this at all. After calming himself down, Night Sorrow immediately began to break through. The energy in his Dantian world was compressed, and he forcibly broke through to the great God level. Then he began to undergo the tribulation. At this moment he was advancing, not advancing. He did not encounter much pressure and succeeded. The feeling of becoming a high-level Feather God made Night Sorrow feel very comfortable. He was much stronger than before. Bai Luo, who realized all this, had an ugly expression. In this half a month, she had been disturbed by Huang Lai and had not completely recovered from her injuries. At this moment, the Shura Divine General, who had not moved until now, was clearly alarmed by Night Sorrow's power. He roared and waved his two blades, attacking him. I'll use you to test the power of a great god. In the face of the Shura Divine General's attack, Night Sorrow stood up, gathered his divine Yuan Qi, and sent out a palm strike. This palm strike was 7 to 8 times stronger than before. It was about the same as Night Sorrow's 7-star violent alcade. The ferocious Shura Divine General was immediately sent flying. Chapter 25-26. After becoming a high god, Night Sorrow's strength had increased a lot. He now had the confidence to fight against the top 10 of the Feather God list. Who gave you the courage? You just became an upper-level Feather God. What's there to be arrogant about? Die. Although Bai Luo hadn't completely recovered from Huang Lai's interference, it didn't affect her battle. In her opinion, even if Night Sorrow became an upper-level Feather God, he still wouldn't be her match. As she spoke, she used the 9 Dragons inverted scale whip made of true dragon reverse scales and lashed it at Night Sorrow. I advise you to use your ultimate skill directly. Facing the 9 Dragons inverted scale whip, Night Sorrow waved his Samsara halberd to resist. As the two sides fought, Bai Luo's expression quickly changed. She realized that Night Sorrow, who had just become an upper-level Feather God, had more divine essence than Yao Shi. She couldn't resist such a powerful aura. How can he be so strong? Is the number 1 Feather God in the Dark Moon region about to change? No. Bai Luo, who had suppressed Yao Shi in battle, already considered herself the number 1 Feather God in the Dark Moon region. She wasn't Night Sorrow's match in terms of divine essence, so she immediately used her ultimate skill. These ultimate techniques had once been able to suppress Yao Shi, but Yi Shang's Eye of the Sea Serpent had also absorbed a large amount of divine origin qi during his cultivation, and successfully leveled up. He was able to see the weaknesses of these ultimate techniques, and Yi Shang was able to quickly suppress the Jade Conch. While suppressing Bai Luo, Night Sorrow also destroyed the Shura Divine General twice. The Shura Divine General in this space was much more special than the one on the 3rd floor. Every time it was destroyed, it would be reborn with a figure of the same strength. After being destroyed twice, it had already split into 3 figures. The Shura Divine General, which had split into 3 figures, became stronger and stronger. Night Sorrow continued to fight Bai Luo. He didn't want her to continue splitting, so he stopped attacking her. Divine Essence Dragon Lock Formation. After dodging Bai Luo and the Azura Divine General's attack, Night Sorrow immediately used the Divine Essence Dragon Locking Array on Bai Luo. Now that his Divine Essence force was several times stronger, he cast this formation again, temporarily trapping Bai Luo within it. Then, the flames of the Samsara Halberd and the Samsara Strike came one after another and blasted into the sealed space. The flames that the heavenly Samsara Halberd shot out were at the half-step Divine Lord level. The burned Jade Conch immediately cried out miserably. However, The speed at which she broke the formation was very fast. Although she was burned, she managed to dodge the attack of the reincarnation. I am no match for you. However, the next time we meet, I will definitely kill you. Bai Luo, who had been burned by the flames, knew that she was no match for Night Sorrow. She immediately thought of escaping. You want to escape? Not so easy. Seeing that Bai Luo wanted to escape, Night Sorrow waved the heavenly samsara halberd again, and used the void vanishing shadow to slash at Bai Luo. Who hurt my disciple? Just as Night Sorrow's heavenly samsara halberd was about to cut through Bai Luo's spirit sea, a shadow suddenly emerged from Bai Luo's glabella. It raised its wide sleeves and slapped at Night Sorrow. The power of this move had already reached the level of a divine lord. 7-star violent alcade. Faced with this life-threatening move, Night Sorrow immediately used a secret technique to increase his strength as much as possible. He activated the Bone Ape God's Essence Force Crystal Core and the Divine Soul Crystal Core in the Heavenly Samsara Halberd, and unleashed the highest level of the Samsara Strike. Buzz. This collision was somewhat different from the collision of the two divine talismans. Back then, the two divine talismans were created by a high-level divine lord. Therefore, they could create such a terrifying destructive effect. Now the attack that the shadow had unleashed was barely at the level of a divine lord. Night Sorrow, who had advanced to a high-level divine feather, did his best to resist. Although he was injured again, he managed to withstand it. A divine feather survived a divine lord's attack? What is your name? Which force are you from? The shadow was obviously surprised that he did not kill Night Sorrow. Using a divine lord's attack to kill a divine lord was like using a butcher's knife to kill a chicken. However, the result was different from what he had expected. My name is none of your business. Go to hell. When he took the attack head-on, the crystal core left by the bone ape played a very important role. However, the sea serpent's eye also played a big role. It saw the trajectory of the divine lord's attack. Because of this, Night Sorrow was able to withstand the attack. At this moment, the sea serpent's eye saw that the shadow was too weak to continue fighting after the attack. Although injured, Night Sorrow's aura was not weakened by much. He immediately fired a forbidden shot at the shadow. You dare to attack me? Good, very good. The younger generation will surpass us in time. I will wait for you at the entrance of the cave residence. Biluo, you are no match for him. Use the escape talisman. The shadow was unable to resist and looked extremely angry. What? You almost killed me and you don't allow me to fight back? What kind of logic is this? Hurry up and die. If I can kill one of your consciousness shadows today, I will definitely be able to kill your true body in the future. In the face of the shadow's threat, Night Sorrow destroyed it without any fear. At the same time, Biluo, who had used the Divine Lord Escape Talisman, immediately disappeared. Huanglai, let's kill the Shura Divine General together. Biluo's escape might cause a huge chain reaction. Night Sorrow immediately engaged the Shura Divine General in battle. Very quickly, the Shura Divine General exploded 8 times. In the end, the Shura Divine General split into 9 figures of the same strength. Huanglai could only barely deal with one of these figures. Night Sorrow fought 8 of them alone. However, now that Night Sorrow had unleashed the 7-star Berserk light-shaking art, his strength had risen to a terrifying level. In the end, he successfully destroyed the Divine General for the 9th time and killed it. After the Shura Divine General was killed, it once again turned into a key fragment, divine tools, divine crystals, and divine materials. After obtaining the key fragment, Night Sorrow took out the other 3 fragments and combined them into a complete key. After the key was combined, a voice immediately sounded in Night Sorrow's mind. The key has been combined successfully. Do you wish to be teleported to the deepest part of the cave? If you choose to be teleported, you will miss out on many opportunities in the Temple of the 33 Days. This includes secret techniques that strengthen the soul. Night Sorrow had heard this voice before. It belonged to the Divine Lord Jinyuan's shadow. When he recalled what the Divine Lord Jinyuan's shadow had said, he immediately replied without hesitation. I choose to be teleported to the deepest part of the cave. Now that Night Moon's clansmen in Seaside City were in danger, How could Night Sorrow be in the mood to continue trying to find opportunities? Now that he had a chance to be teleported to the deepest part of the cave, he made his choice without hesitation. Good. Follow me. The moment Night Sorrow made his choice, the key in his hand disappeared. The next moment he appeared in a quaint little courtyard. This courtyard was exactly the same as Long Tianqing's courtyard. However, there were no living creatures, making it seem somewhat lifeless. In addition, there was a simple stone coffin in the center of the courtyard that was different from Long Tianqing's courtyard. Divine Lord, Senior Long Tianqing divined the existence of the letter, and asked me to come and retrieve it. Chapter 25-27. Night Sorrow admired Sir Gaojin Yuan from the bottom of his heart for what he had done. Naturally, he would not rashly touch his coffin. If he really did that, it would be a great offense to Sir Gaojin Yuan. Sigh, I have let Tianqing down. Not long after, something that surprised Night Sorrow happened. Sir Gaojin Yuan actually pushed open the coffin, stood up and walked out. Sir God, you are not dead? Night Sorrow's eyes of the sea serpent saw that the figure was not an illusion, and immediately asked excitedly. If Sir Gaojin Yuan was not dead, it would be great news for Long Tianqing and Haibei City. My current state is very strange. My body and soul are severely damaged. I can live if I stay in this space, but I will definitely die if I go out. Sir Gaojin Yuan explained and sat on the stone bench beside the stone table. He waved at Night Sorrow and said, "Come in and have a seat. You are the first one to come here after Wuxin. Wuxin, the Divine King, really came here before." Hearing Sir Gaojin Yuan's words, Night Sorrow immediately told him about Mo Qianqian and Wuxin's suppression of Haibei City. What? Such a thing actually happened? Originally, I thought that Wuxin would regain Haibei City's prestige after receiving our inheritance. Instead, he suppressed it. Bastard. After knowing what Wuxin had done, Sir Gaojin Yuan's face turned ugly. His body was not connected to the other illusions in the cave, so he was not aware of what was happening in the outside world. Originally, I thought that with Wuxin around, Haibei City would definitely survive the next crisis. Now it seems that it will be difficult. After a moment of silence, Sir Gaojin Yuan said angrily, "Sir God, how long will it take for the sealed soul-eater beast to be born?" Night Sorrow, who was sitting on the stone bench, immediately asked. "Sigh, if I did not estimate wrongly, it will probably be 1,000 years later. 1,000 years later, Haibei City will be invaded by the soul-eater beast on a large scale. Now that Haibei City is no longer in its current state, it will be difficult to resist." Sir Gaojin Yuan sighed. He stared at Night Sorrow for a while and said, "If you can pass the test within 500 years and obtain the secret method to strengthen your soul, there is still a way to reverse the situation." Pass the test and obtain the secret method to strengthen one's soul? Sir Gaojin Yuan's words surprised Night Sorrow. Before he was teleported here, he was told that he had no fate with the secret technique. Now he had another chance. Passing the test of the temple is the only way to obtain the complete secret technique. If you can pass the test and obtain the secret technique within 500 years, I have a way to solve the problem of the soul-devouring beast. As Divine Lord Jin Yuan explained, Night Sorrow gradually felt sleepy. After he fell asleep, his soul appeared in front of a 33-story bluestone palace. Greenstone Palace? Temple of the 33 Days? Standing at the entrance of the bluestone palace, Night Sorrow immediately recognized that it was exactly the same as the one he had entered. The Temple of the 33 Days that you entered was only a form, but this one is a god. Go pass its test within 500 years. Divine Lord Jin Yuan's voice sounded again. What do I have to do to pass the test of the temple? 500 years, I can't wait that long. My family is now under threat. I have to leave as soon as possible. Although Night Sorrow was envious of the secret method to strengthen one's soul, he was more worried about his family's situation. Since Tianqing asked you to find the letter, with her personality, she will naturally protect your family. Don't worry, the people she wants to protect will not be touched even if they are unintentional. Seeing Night Sorrow's worry, Divine Lord Jin Yuan explained and continued. The temple of the 33 days here is basically the same as the one you entered. As long as you defeat all the god generals, you will pass the test. Only by defeating the god generals on the 33rd floor at the Feather God realm can you obtain the complete secret method. Back then, I did not succeed in the challenge, and the secret method I obtained was incomplete. Senior Tianqing has such influence? She is not an ordinary exalted god. When Long Tianqing was saving Yi Linghuan, Lin Piaomiao, and Yi Shaluo, she implied that she could only suppress Ling Yun's divine essence for 100 years. Night Sorrow had always felt that her abilities were at the exalted god realm. Even if she did not become the divine king, she would definitely be at the level of an invincible Sir God. When we were together back then, she was slightly stronger than me. Divine Lord Jinyuan smiled slightly. His face was filled with nostalgia when he talked about Long Tianqing. Senior Tianqing's abilities are actually so strong? If she is willing to help me, then the matter of saving Auntie Fei will be settled. And with her abilities, saving Grandpa, Sister Xian and Shaluo should be an easy task. Hearing Divine Lord Jinyuan's words, Night Sorrow immediately understood one thing. Long Tianqing had the ability to heal his family. What she said previously should have meant that within 100 years, if he obtained the letter, she would help to save them. Otherwise, there was no need to talk about it. Yes, that is very likely the case. Night Sorrow felt that Divine Lord Jinyuan would definitely not lie. He immediately analyzed the whole story. Now that you have resolved your worries, you can accept the challenge with peace of mind, right? Go ahead, as long as you can pass the test within 500 years. I will give you the letter that Tianqing asked for. In addition, I will also resolve the crisis of the soul-devouring beast. Sensing Night Sorrow's divine soul fluctuation, Divine Lord Jinyuan revealed a smile on his face. I will complete the challenge as soon as possible. The slowest will not be more than 80 years. Divine Lord, wait for me to come out. If he could save his family as soon as possible, Night Sorrow naturally did not want them to suffer another day of torture. He bowed towards Divine Lord Jinyuan and walked into the Temple of the 33 Days. Just like the previous time he entered, Night Sorrow saw many scattered divine weapons on the ground of the first floor. Night Sorrow only entered with his divine soul. The heavenly Samsara halberd and green phoenix armor were not with him. This time he did not go straight to the third floor to look for the god general. Instead, he went to the first floor to look for a suitable defensive robe and spear-type divine weapon. After searching for close to half a month, Night Sorrow found a high god-level black spear. After that, Night Sorrow spent 3 days looking for defensive divine weapons on the first floor, but to no avail. Hence, he went to the second floor. Just as he reached the second floor, Night Sorrow realized that the Temple of the 33 Days that he entered was different from the one he entered previously. There were many soul-devouring beasts on the second floor. What is the purpose of these soul-devouring beasts? Logically speaking, to pass the test, one only needed to reach the 3rd, 13th, 23rd and 33rd floors. Now that he saw soul-devouring beasts on the second floor, Night Sorrow was instantly puzzled. After thinking for a while, he decided to take action and see what effect killing the soul-devouring beasts would have. However, after killing 6 or 7 soul-devouring beasts with the strength of a lower high god, Night Sorrow did not gain anything. After searching the second floor for a while, he did not find any divine weapons. He felt that there was no need to stay, so he prepared to go to the third floor to look for the god general. However, just as Night Sorrow was about to leave, he was surrounded by a large group of high god-level soul-devouring beasts. The dark aura of these soul-devouring beasts was very thick, similar to what Night Sorrow encountered in the small gravel world. Chapter 25-28. Although this soul-devouring beast king was also a beast king, it was definitely not the same as the one Night Sorrow and Yuntiani had encountered in the small gravel world. Although the dark aura on its body was also very thick, its strength was only at upper-level high deity level. It was a level lower than the half-step high deity level beast kings that were split from the invincible high deity. Its spiritual intelligence was also much lower, and its body was filled with the instinctive murderous aura. Kill him. The The soul-devouring beast king roared these 3 simple words very incoherently. After it gave the order, the hundreds of soul-devouring beasts around it all surrounded Night Sorrow. If I continue to use the dark aura to control the soul-devouring beast king, I'm afraid it will affect the recovery of the power of merit. I'd better fight with all my might. Now that Night Sorrow had advanced to upper-level Feather God, both his strength and mentality had changed. Faced with the encirclement of many soul-devouring beasts, he raised his pitch-black long spear and fought with the soul-devouring beasts. Fighting in the Temple of the 33 Days was basically the same as fighting in reality. Night Sorrow, who used Essence Smoke and Star's hegemonic body, had a body that no soul-devouring beast could compare to. When he fought, he was like a wolf charging into a flock of sheep. Whether he encountered a lower-level high deity-level soul-devouring beast, or a lower-level high deity-level soul-devouring beast, he basically killed them all in one move. Advancing to upper-level Feather God, the change in strength is too great. This feeling is great. After fighting with the soul-devouring beasts continuously, Night Sorrow's body was not only indestructible, but the power of his god's soul was also much stronger than these soul-devouring beasts. The aura on his body was also constantly increasing. When he fought, he was quite invincible. Human cultivator, die. Seeing Night Sorrow killing the soul-devouring beasts under him, the soul-devouring beast king roared and charged forward. An upper-level high deity-level beast king, I wonder how strong it is. Facing the upper-level high deity-level soul-devouring beast king, Night Sorrow used the black spear to perform a simple and unadorned spear technique. Forbidden spear technique. Pfft. Before the soul-devouring beast king could perform any moves, it was instantly killed by the spear. Am I too strong, or is the soul-devouring beast too weak? Night Sorrow was slightly surprised that the soul-devouring beast king was killed so easily. However, at this moment, he saw that the soul-devouring beast king that he had killed had transformed into a god-tier defensive robe. He didn't think too much about it, and continued to kill the soul-devouring beast to snatch the robe. There's no dark aura. Looks like this is the reward for killing the soul-devouring beast king. Could it be that in this Temple of the 33 Days, every time I kill a few king-rank soul-devouring beasts, I'll be rewarded? With an idea in mind, Night Sorrow immediately searched for other soul-devouring beast kings on the 2nd floor after wiping out the entire group of soul-devouring beast kings. However, he discovered that there were no other beast kings on the 2nd floor other than the one he had killed. Thus, when they reached the 3rd floor, what Night Sorrow encountered on the 3rd floor was not a soul-devouring beast, but a group of fire-type earth dragons. There were more than 10 earth dragons on the 3rd floor, and one of them was an earth dragon king. After killing this Earth Dragon King, Night Sorrow obtained a god-tier fire-type longsword. He was a spear user, so he didn't pay much attention to the longsword. He simply threw it on the ground and rushed towards the Divine General's area. However, when he reached the entrance of the Divine General's area, Night Sorrow discovered that he couldn't enter at all. In the end, after some research, he discovered that the longsword rewarded for killing the Earth Dragon King was a pass to enter the Divine General's area. At this point, Night Sorrow basically understood that killing king-rank entities in the Temple of the 33 Days had its uses. The Divine General's area on the 3rd floor didn't change much. It was still an Azura Divine General wielding dual blades, and its aura was almost exactly the same as an ordinary Azura Divine General on the 3rd floor. After fighting with it for 2 hours, Night Sorrow successfully killed it, and obtained a sparkling and translucent jade key. The key was definitely useful. He kept it in his pocket and continued to advance to the next floor. The 4th floor. The 5th floor. In less than 3 years, Night Sorrow defeated the 13th floor's Divine General and obtained the 2nd key. However, it took him a full 30 years to defeat the 23rd floor's Divine General. If that's the case, defeating the 33rd floor's Divine General won't take 300 years. After collecting the reward from the 23rd floor's Divine General, Night Sorrow took the pill he obtained from killing the Beast King to recover his divine soul. He discovered that although the battles in the Temple of the 33 Days were basically the same as in the real world, the consumption of his divine soul was extremely high. After a fierce battle with a powerful Beast King or Divine General, he had to take a pill to recover his divine soul. Otherwise, it would take him a year or 2 to fully recover. In the blink of an eye, Knight Sorrow had already spent 70 years in the Temple of the 33 Days. His divine soul had become a lot stronger during these 70 years of battle, and was now close to the half-step god realm. On this day, Knight Sorrow arrived at the 32nd floor, and discovered that the Beast King on the 32nd floor was actually an Azura Divine General with the same aura as the 23rd floor's Divine General. These two Divine Generals were practically inseparable, wandering aimlessly on the 32nd floor. If he attacked one of them, he would definitely alert the other. At this time, Knight Sorrow had experienced dozens of years of battle on the 31st floor. His defensive and offensive divine weapons had reached the half-step Divine Lord level. He had accumulated a lot of good items, but he still felt a lot of pressure when facing these two powerful Divine Generals. I've already told the Divine Lords that I must pass this floor within 80 years. No matter what, I have to do it. If there are two of them, then so be it. I'll just fight. Knight Sorrow thought for a moment, then used Essence Chi Smoke, Star's hegemonic body, and 7 Stars Berserk Alcade. He adjusted his aura to its strongest state, then wielded the nameless blood-colored halberd he had obtained from the 30th floor, and fought against the two Azura Divine Generals. Just as he felt, these two Azura Divine Generals were exactly the same as the Divine General on the 23rd floor. Their combat strength was just as shocking. After fighting for a while, Knight Sorrow found that he couldn't withstand the simultaneous attacks of two Azura Divine Generals. He immediately put some distance between them, then used the Divine Origin Dragon-locking formation on one of them, trapping it while attacking the other. This method was quite effective, but after using it a few times, Knight Sorrow felt the backlash of the 7 Stars Berserk Alcade. Helpless, he could only flee back to the 31st floor under the pursuit of the two Azura Divine Generals. Just like that, Knight Sorrow spent 2 years fighting the two Azura Divine Generals on the 32nd floor, while recovering and fleeing. Finally, he exhausted one of the Azura Divine Generals to death. It turned out that Azura Divine Generals couldn't recover after being injured. Over time, they suffered enough damage and were naturally killed. With one of the Azura Divine Generals killed, Knight Sorrow fought the other one without any pressure. Not long after, he killed the other one. After the two Azura Divine Generals were killed, they turned into 2 Divine Talismans. The back of these 2 Divine Talismans were filled with complicated inscriptions, while the front had the image of the Azura Divine General. Knight Sorrow guessed that these 2 Divine Talismans were the Azura Divine General summoning talismans. He didn't activate the Divine Talismans. After recovering, he rushed back to the 33rd floor. Chapter 25-29. Knight Sorrow knew that if he wanted to enter the 33rd floor, he had to kill the 3 Shura Divine Generals. Normally, with his strength, it was impossible. He did not hesitate and activated the 2 talismans in his hand. The talismans were activated and 2 Shura Divine Generals appeared. You two hold back the 2 on the left and right. I'll attack the one in the middle. Knight Sorrow controlled the 2 Shura Divine Generals with his soul. He had them each hold back 1 Shura Divine General, while he faced 1 Shura Divine General alone. This way, there was no suspense in the battle. The 3 Shura Divine Generals were quickly killed, and turned into summoning talismans. After the 3 Shura Divine Generals turned into summoning talismans, 6 identical Shura Divine Generals spawned not far away. Is this an unlimited respawn? No matter what, there must be a reason why the temple is here. Let's fight. I'll accumulate more summoning talismans. This time, Knight Sorrow activated 3 summoning talismans, and used his soul power to command the 5 Shura Divine Generals to fight the 6 Divine Generals in front of him. Commanding the 5 Shura Divine Generals at the same time, Knight Sorrow's soul gradually felt a trace of pressure. However, the result was very good. They quickly killed all 6 Divine Generals, and obtained another 6 Divine Talismans. Looks like they'll continue to spawn. After killing all 6 Azura Divine Generals, Yishang immediately swallowed 3 pills he had obtained from the temple, and quickly recovered the power of his soul. At the same time, many Shura Divine Generals spawned not far away. Yishang's divine soul power had completely recovered. He took a closer look and found that 11 Shura Divine Generals had spawned, 1 less than he had estimated. Night Sorrow was controlling the 5 Shura Divine Generals. When he saw that 11 Shura Divine Generals spawned, he activated all 6 talismans in his hand. He led the 11 Shura Divine Generals to fight the newly spawned Divine Generals. The result was obvious. He did not lose a single one and successfully obtained 11 summoning talismans. Then, another 11 Shura Divine Generals spawned on the 33rd floor. This time, Night Sorrow did not use his summoning talismans and successfully killed them all. He obtained another 11 summoning talismans. At this point, Night Sorrow was controlling 11 Shura Divine Generals and had 22 summoning talismans in his hand. After that, the 33rd level became completely silent. No more Shura Divine Generals were spawned. There's a total of 33 summoning talismans. There must be a reason for this. The name of the palace was the Temple of the 33 Days. Night Sorrow had fought for so many years, and now he was standing in front of the Divine Champion area with 33 summoning talismans in his hand. He guessed that this was definitely not a coincidence. However, Night Sorrow couldn't figure out what exactly had happened. After fully recovering, he didn't linger for too long and directly entered the 33rd floor's God General area. Night Sorrow floated in the starry sky after entering the Divine General region of the 33rd level. The 33 vortex-shaped nebulas were irregularly distributed in the starry sky. In the starry sky, there were no powerful Divine Generals like he had imagined. 33 swirl-shaped nebulas. I have 33 summoning talismans of Shura Immortal General. It shouldn't be a coincidence. Let me try. Night Sorrow, who wasn't in the mood to make wild guesses, controlled an Shura Divine General and had it fly towards the nebula closest to him. When this Shura Divine General flew to the center of the nebula, a huge pillar of light suddenly erupted from the nebula. This pillar of light shot up into the sky and lit up the sky above the nebula. It seems that I need to control 33 Shura Divine Generals to activate the corresponding 33 skies of the nebula. The originally dim sky suddenly lit up. Night Sorrow immediately understood what was going on. He controlled the Shura Divine Generals to activate the corresponding skies of the nebula. By the time he released the 24th summoning talisman, he could clearly feel that his consciousness couldn't hold on any longer. He couldn't control any more Divine Generals. It seems that I can only use the 7-star Berserk Alcade to try my luck. Night Sorrow, who had continuously consumed pills to recover his consciousness, immediately used the 7-star Berserk Alcade, instantly increasing his consciousness's strength by 7 times. With his consciousness's strength increased by 7 times, controlling more Divine Generals wasn't a problem at all. However, Night Sorrow knew that his control wouldn't last for long, because the backlash of the 7-star Berserk Alcade would soon arrive. He hurriedly activated all the remaining summoning talismans. At the same time, he controlled the remaining Divine Generals to fly towards the nebula in various directions. When the last Shura Divine General reached the nebula, the dazzling pillar of light was activated, and the 33 skies were completely activated. At the same time, the backlash of the 7-star Berserk Alcade arrived. Night Sorrow, who didn't have any soul recovery pills to consume, immediately became weak and uncontrollable. At this moment, golden origin energy floated out from each of the 33 skies. After this origin energy appeared, it immediately floated around Night Sorrow and slowly revolved around him. A familiar smell. The origin energy around him reminded Night Sorrow of the origin energy that Ling Yun had stolen when he first came to the God Realm. This time, he greedily absorbed all the origin energy into his body. After absorbing all the origin energy from the 33 skies, not only did Night Sorrow completely recover, but his consciousness had also successfully reached the level of a half-step great deity. It's a pity that I can only increase my consciousness in the Temple of the 33 Days. If I can upgrade my cultivation and body, my strength will definitely increase qualitatively. Night Sorrow, who had recovered, felt that it was a pity. You've already obtained enough. You can't be too greedy. At this moment, a loud and clear voice was heard all of a sudden. This voice was very ethereal. Night Sorrow, who was floating in the starry sky, couldn't find the source of the voice. He immediately asked, "Who are you?" As he spoke, Night Sorrow didn't let his guard down. Because the challenge of the 33rd level was still ongoing, he didn't know what would happen. I'm the Divine General of the 33rd level. I'm also the person who stopped you from obtaining the secret technique. As long as you can defeat me, you can obtain the complete secret technique. Otherwise, you who have 3 keys can only obtain 3/4 of it. At this moment, a male cultivator holding a spear and riding a white horse appeared in the starry sky. The man had long hair and wore silver armor. There was a strong fighting spirit between his brows as he flew over from afar. However, this wasn't the main point. The main point was that he was a low-level divine lord. A true divine lord. The final test of the Temple of the 33 Days is to defeat a divine lord as a feather god. No wonder even someone as talented as Divine Lord Jinyuan failed. Feather gods defeating great deities happened frequently in the god realm. But a feather god defeating a divine lord was simply unheard of. At least, Night Sorrow hadn't heard of it. However, he didn't retreat at all. He charged forward with his spear. Chapter 25:30. Ha! You are really funny. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, the spear-wielding silver-armored male cultivator immediately laughed out loud. He said disdainfully, "It's impossible for you to defeat me with your own strength. The divine generals that activate the 33 skies will help you. The 33 skies will also give you a boost. Otherwise, what will you use to fight me?" "With my determination to win." His opponent was a divine lord and was indeed very strong, but Night Sorrow didn't care at all. In his heart, there was only endless fighting spirit. He brandished his spear and shot out the forbidden spear. Although this spear was at the half-step divine lord level, it didn't have the samsara attribute and couldn't shoot out the samsara spear. The forbidden spear was already his strongest attack. Weak. Seeing Night Sorrow shoot out the forbidden spear, the silver-armored general laughed disdainfully and raised his halberd. Divine lords and feather gods were separated by high gods. They were already on different levels. His halberd immediately sent Night Sorrow flying. "You aren't strong either." After being sent flying, Night Sorrow got up and found that his body wasn't injured, but his divine soul was clearly weakened. He immediately understood that the key to fighting here was the divine soul. He tried to use his soul to communicate with the 33 divine generals. It really works. With his divine soul raised to the half-step high god level, he didn't need to use the 7-star berserk to control the 33 divine generals. Controlling the 33 divine generals made Night Sorrow feel as if he controlled the 33 heavens. With a thought, he used Grand Yellow Sky, Grand Brightness Sky, and Clear Brightness Sky to shoot out 3 beams of light. After these beams of light were shot out, they immediately connected to the silver-armored general's body. Being illuminated by these beams of light, his aura immediately weakened. It was effective. Night Sorrow continued to control the other 30 skies, shining all of them on the silver-armored general's body. Being illuminated by these beams of light, the silver-armored general's strength fell to the half-step divine lord level. However, he was still very strong, an unparalleled high god. "Very good. Come and fight." As though he knew that Night Sorrow would make such a choice, the weakened silver-armored general immediately stabbed his halberd at Night Sorrow. Even though this halberd strike was simple and there seemed to be no changes, it gave off an illusion that it was difficult to dodge. Clam Dragon Eye open. Night Sorrow, who was locked onto by the halberd, immediately activated the Sea Serpent's Eye. After seeing through the attack, he dodged and stabbed the horse's hind leg with his spear. After being stabbed by the spear, the white horse under the silver-armored general immediately went limp and threw him off. "You actually managed to dodge my attack. You have some strength. However, you are not worthy of Master's secret technique." After being thrown out, the general immediately floated above the stars. He didn't use his halberd for this attack. Instead, 2 beams of light shot out from his eyes. Soul attack. The moment the 2 beams of light shot out, Night Sorrow used the Sea Serpent's Eye to observe them. He immediately used the vanishing shadow void escape to hide in the void. "It's useless. You can't dodge this attack at all." The silver-armored general, who was floating in the starry sky with his halberd in hand, had a look of disdain on his face. There was no way to dodge his soul attack. 7-star Berserk Alcade. Night Sorrow had the sea serpent's eye, so he could see that he couldn't withstand the 2 soul attacks. He immediately used the 7-star Berserk and adjusted his soul power to its strongest state. Buzz. Even so, Night Sorrow, who was hit by the attack, still felt his spirit sea shake violently. His soul power was clearly fluctuating, causing the light of the 33 skies to become unstable. If Night Sorrow hadn't cultivated the myriad Dao Tome and drunk a lot of enlightenment wine, his spirit sea would have been destroyed by this attack. Origin source power backfire on him. Under such circumstances, Night Sorrow, who was gradually stabilizing himself, used the remaining origin source power to launch a counterattack against the silver-armored general. After being attacked by the origin source power of the 33 skies, the silver-armored general's eyes immediately bled, and he screamed in pain. Origin source power is indeed powerful. After succeeding in one strike, Night Sorrow took advantage of the bleeding eyes of the silver-armored general to immediately use the illuminating sky dragon capturing hands to grab his head. This was an ultimate technique that he hadn't used in a long time because its grade was too low. Scram. The silver-armored general subconsciously counterattacked, preparing to send Night Sorrow flying. Although he had been weakened by the 33 skies, he still had the strength of an invincible high god. He had the advantage in terms of raw strength, and was able to force Night Sorrow back. But at this moment, the spear that Night Sorrow controlled with his soul power suddenly pierced through the void, stabbing straight at the silver-armored general's spirit sea. Oh no! The silver-armored general wanted to dodge, but it was too late. His spirit sea was suddenly pierced, and the silver-armored general who had his spirit sea pierced immediately turned into a key. The white horse that came with him turned into origin source power, and poured into Night Sorrow's body. After suffering the backlash of the 7-star Berserk, Night Sorrow immediately returned to his peak state. Did I succeed? It seems a little easier than I thought. After recovering, Night Sorrow felt his soul power increase again, reaching the peak of the Feather God realm. He immediately stopped absorbing the 33 skies origin source power. At the same time, a ladder that led straight to the heavens appeared in the starry sky before him. After walking down the ladder for 33 days, Night Sorrow finally reached the end of the ladder. This was a huge stone door that was shrouded in dense fog. Before Night Sorrow could do anything, the 4 keys on his body automatically flew out and flew into the 4 keyholes on the stone door. After the stone door opened, a very thin piece of gold leaf flew out. This piece of gold leaf flew out of the stone door and floated in front of Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow tried to grab it, but he couldn't. He immediately used his soul power to sense it and absorbed it into his spirit sea. The secret technique of the 33 stars. This was Night Sorrow's last thought in the Temple of the 33 Days. Following that, he returned to Divine Lord Jinyuan's side. Night Sorrow slowly opened his eyes. After waking up and seeing Divine Lord Jinyuan, he immediately said, "Divine Lord, I did it. Now you can tell me how to resolve High Bay City's crisis." Good, very good. You have indeed successfully obtained the secret technique in less than 80 years. Divine Lord Jinyuan praised with an awkward expression. He said, "I'm ashamed to say that the way to resolve the crisis is to completely recover. If I can recover, I should be able to break through to the Divine King realm very quickly. In that case, the threat of the soul-devouring beast will naturally be resolved." Oh, Divine Lords can be revived? There's still a chance to break through to the Divine King realm. If Senior Tianqing knows about this, she will definitely be very happy. Hearing Divine Lord Jinyuan say that he had a chance to be revived, Night Sorrow immediately said, "Divine Lord's revival must have something to do with the secret technique I obtained. You can just tell me how I should cooperate." Night Sorrow was extremely respectful towards Mo Yuqian, Divine Lord Jinyuan, and Ao Feng, seniors with great spirit. "If you want me to be revived, not only do you need the secret technique, you also need a very special elixir. This elixir hasn't appeared for several reincarnations. It's almost extinct in the realm of the gods. However, Tianqing's family has some clues." Divine Lord Jinyuan explained and handed Night Sorrow an envelope. He said, "Actually, there were 2 letters left for Tianqing. Now that you have successfully obtained the secret technique, she has received the one with hope. Haha, that's for the best. Night Sorrow was very happy with such an outcome. Here are some cultivation resources that I have prepared for you. Take them and leave. Divine Lord Jin Yuan handed Night Sorrow a ring and opened a path to the outside world. It's time for a new journey. Night Sorrow slowly stepped into the teleportation door and waved goodbye to Divine Lord Jin Yuan. After a while, he appeared outside the cave dwelling. Chapter 2531. The Divine Lord was a middle-aged male cultivator. His horse-like face was filled with a thick bloodlust. He stood on a flying sword that suffused a cold black light. Good lad. Night Sorrow, oh Night Sorrow, you are finally out. You have made me wait for a long time. After Divine Lord Horseface approached, he immediately enveloped Night Sorrow with his divine domain. He had been waiting in Divine Lord Jin Yuan's cave abode for 80 to 90 years. His heart was filled with endless resentment. You sure are persistent. However, I'm afraid you will have waited for nothing for the past 100 years. Night Sorrow had some impression of this Divine Lord. Back when he and Yun Tianyi left the cave abode to rest, he had been attacked from a distance. However, he had not been injured. Later on, he heard from Huang Lai that this Divine Lord had intercepted him. The present Night Sorrow might not be able to defeat a low-level Divine Lord, but he would definitely have no problem protecting himself. He was extremely calm when facing Divine Lord Horseface. Punk, how arrogant. Do you so-called invincible feather gods really think that no one in the divine world other than the Divine King and the ruler can subdue you? I, Wen Zhengfang, am a Divine Lord who has never been on any ranking list. Today, I will teach you a lesson and take away all your light from Providence. Wen Zhengfang was a Divine Lord, but in the eyes of the ruler and the Divine King, his value was inferior to that of an invincible high god. He was even inferior to Jade Conch, who was ranked in the top 10 of the Feather God list. Normally, he would bow and scrape when he saw these geniuses, but in fact he was extremely displeased. Now that he had encountered an invincible feather god like Night Sorrow, he wanted to torture him before killing him and taking away his light from Providence. Plundering the light from Providence was also one of the reasons why he had been waiting at the cave abode's entrance. If you want to take away my light from Providence, we will have to see if you have the ability to do so. There was only one Divine Lord present. Night Sorrow had no intention of retreating immediately. Now that his cultivation level had risen to a high-level high god, his yuan qi had increased greatly. In addition, his power of merit and divine soul had reached the peak of the feather god realm. Although he could not use the power of merit, he wanted to try fighting a Divine Lord. After all, the white-armored Divine Lord in the Temple of the 33 Days wasn't considered a complete Divine Lord. When he fought, he only targeted the soul. In response, Night Sorrow released his god domain to fight against Wen Gongfang's god domain, and immediately shattered the god domain binding him. Ability? As a divine monarch, even my breath is something an ant like you can't resist. Just accept your fate. Today, this seat will let you understand that a genius who has yet to rise is no different from trash. Wen Gongxing's divine domain was broken, but he didn't seem to care at all. He raised his hand and struck out a palm towards Night Sorrow's chest, wanting to shatter all the bones in his body. You will pay the price for underestimating me like this. It's just a Divine Lord. What's there to be arrogant about? Although Wen Zhengfang's palm strike was a Divine Lord strike, it was an ordinary palm strike. At that time, the shadow guarding the Jade Conch had used a secret technique. Even Night Sorrow had blocked it. Facing this palm, he had used Essence Chi Smoke Beacon, Star's Hegemonic Body, and 7 Stars Berserk Alcade to counterattack. Bang! After the two of them collided, Wen Gongfang's body flew out. Moreover, although Night Sorrow's strength was about the same as his, the strength of his body was much higher. This palm strike had directly shattered the bones in his hand. Little bastard, you are courting death. Blood Fiend Red Lotus Sword. Wen Gongfang had the arrogance of a Divine Lord, but his hand had been shattered by Night Sorrow's strike. He was so angry that he was stamping with rage. He condensed his divine essence and controlled the flying sword to use a secret technique. It pierced towards Night Sorrow's dantian, wanting to cripple him. At the same time, Wen Gongfang threw out a secret treasure and imprisoned Night Sorrow, trapping him on the spot. Samsara Strike. Being imprisoned by a divine monarch's secret treasure, Night Sorrow indeed didn't have the ability to escape in an instant. He immediately used the Samsara Halberd, and used the Samsara Strike to clash head-on with his opponent. However, Wen Gongfang's blood-fiend Red Lotus sword was a little strange. When facing the Samsara Halberd, it actually split into two swords. One blocked the Samsara Halberd, while the other circled around and continued to stab towards Night Sorrow's dantian. Clang. At the critical moment, Night Sorrow used the illuminating Sky Dragon capturing hand, and forcibly pulled the flying sword away from its original direction. However, the flying sword energy still shot into Night Sorrow's chest, causing him to suffer some injuries. Kid, you have been struck by the blood-fiend Red Lotus sword energy. You won't live for more than 2 hours. Your providence already belongs to me. Seeing Night Sorrow being struck by the sword energy, Wen Gongfang immediately laughed wantonly. His blood-fiend Red Lotus sword had a very strong corrosive effect. It was equivalent to an extremely high-grade poison. It was one of his trump cards. You should worry about yourself. After Night Sorrow was struck by the sword energy, the power of merit in his body immediately came out to purify the blood-fiend chi. Night Sorrow discovered that although the power of merit could not be used to attack at will, it could automatically protect its owner at critical moments. At the same time, he noticed that Wen Gongfang's flying sword had not completely blocked the Samsara Strike. After being injured, his aura had clearly weakened. Wen Gongfang's aura fluctuated between a Divine Lord and a half-step Divine Lord. Night Sorrow immediately held the Samsara Halberd horizontally and stabbed at Wen Gongfang with a simple spear. With Wen Gongfang's strength, he could completely dodge this spear. However, his aura did not seem strong, so he did not choose to dodge. Instead, he held his flying sword and chose to take it head-on. Samsara Halberd, burn for me. At this moment, Night Sorrow used the Sea Serpent's Eye and saw through the area that Wen Gongfang could block. He let the Samsara Halberd release flames to burn the area that Wen Gongfang could not block, and could only use his divine domain to protect. In an instant, Wen Gongfang's divine domain was destroyed and his body was burned by the flames. Little bastard, you deserve to die. Wen Gongfang, who was burned by the flames, angrily threw his secret treasure at Night Sorrow again. He wanted to imprison him again, and carry out a follow-up attack. Divine Essence Dragon Locking Array. Night Sorrow, who had already been hit once, was clearly prepared. He immediately used the Divine Essence Dragon Locking Array to imprison Wen Gongfang's secret treasure, causing it to temporarily lose its effect. What kind of move is this? Wen Gongfang was extremely surprised that Night Sorrow could easily isolate a Divine Lord-level secret treasure in another world. In the moment that he was momentarily distracted, Night Sorrow took out 2 half-step Divine Lord-level Divine Talismans from his pocket. After activating them, he threw them at Wen Gongfang. After being struck by the 2 half-step Divine Lord-level Divine Talismans, Wen Gongfang, who was already burned by the flames, immediately suffered heavy injuries. This is a move that will take your life. Night Sorrow, who seized the opportunity, was like a ferocious beast in human form. He immediately pounced at Wen Gongfang and fought with him. With the support of the Azure Phoenix battle armor, Night Sorrow, who had an extremely strong body to begin with, instantly tore Wen Gongfang's body in half. Damn little bastard. Your combat strength is actually so strong. You are much more terrifying than Jade Conch. It looks like I have kicked an iron plate this time. This seat must immediately flee. Wen Gongfang, whose body had been torn apart, was a divine lord after all. He controlled his divine essence energy to forcefully reassemble his body. He was extremely unwilling to be defeated by a feather god, but in a situation where he was suppressed, he had no chance to use many of his techniques. He could only choose to flee. Bloodfiend Red Lotus Sword Self-Destruct. Chapter 2532. Oh no. I can't withstand the self-destruction of a monarch god artifact. In the face of the blood fiend Red Lotus Sword's self-destruction, Night Sorrow used the Sea Serpent's Eye to analyze the escape route and immediately used Vanishing Shadow. Boom! The valley outside the cave collapsed the moment the blood fiend Red Lotus Sword self-destructed. Night Sorrow's Divine Essence Dragon Locking Formation was also broken. However, when Gongfang, who wanted to escape, did not have the time to retrieve the Scarlet Gold Dragon Mark, the secret treasure that locked down space. When Night Sorrow returned, he immediately sensed the aura of the Red Golden Dragon Seal and summoned it to his hand. He realized that he wasn't strong enough to erase Wen Gongfang's seal, so he rushed back to Haibei City with it. After returning to Haibei City, Night Sorrow's first stop was the courtyard he had arranged for Night Moon's people. Arriving at the courtyard, Yishang heaved a sigh of relief. Flying in the air, he saw his wife and daughter drinking tea in the courtyard, including Lin Piaomiao, who had been injured by Ling Yin. Now, not only had Lin Piaomiao fully recovered, she had also advanced to the divine realm. Her complexion was even better than before. I'm relieved that everyone is well. Seeing his wife and daughter chatting and laughing with Jingyan while drinking tea, Yishang knew that nothing had happened in the courtyard. Otherwise, everyone would not be so relaxed. Afterward, he used his divine sense to investigate the courtyard. He wanted to find Yi Linghuan and Yi Shaluo to see if they had recovered. However, he discovered that his divine sense could not penetrate the courtyard at all. It was clearly blocked by a defensive array. The formation I set up has been strengthened. It seems like Senior Tianqing helped. Night Sorrow cared about his family and friends the most. He wanted to fly down and reunite with them immediately. However, he still had the letter left by the god Jin Yuan. He flew directly to Long Tianqing's residence. Night Sorrow, do you have time to talk to me? However, when Yishan was just a short distance away from the courtyard, a voice came from behind him. He paused and saw that it was Mingi. He asked, "Hi God Mingi, what do you want?" "I heard that little friend Night Sorrow entered the abode of the Jin Yuan Divine Lord. Have you seen my children?" When Mingi asked, there was a hint of coldness in his tone. "I've seen them, but I don't know where they went because I didn't travel with them. High Deity, when I fell from grace, you gave me a mansion. Let me give you this half-step Divine Lord level defensive robe as a return gift." Night Sorrow had indeed received a favor from Styx. He took out a defensive robe that he had obtained from the Temple of the 33 Days, and handed it over. This robe was much better than the one Mingi was wearing. It was enough to repay the favor of the mansion. Mingi's eyes lit up when he saw the robe. He took the robe without any hesitation, even forgetting about his children. After putting it on, Zhang Xian activated it with his divine energy and tested its might. After trying it on, he was very satisfied and praised, "This robe is really good. I like it very much. In that case, we'll part ways here. If I can find out any news about your son and daughter from my friends in the future, I'll be sure to inform you immediately." Night Sorrow didn't have a good impression of Mingi. After returning the favor, he prepared to leave immediately and rushed to Long Tianqing's mansion. Wait. Mingi's expression suddenly changed. "Although this robe is good, I feel that the secret treasure in your hand is more suitable for me. How about this? Leave the secret treasure, and I'll let you go." "What? High Deity Mingi, are you trying to snatch the secret treasure from me?" Night Sorrow's expression immediately changed. He could give it to Mingi, but it was a completely different matter if someone else took it. You can think of it as snatching or coercion, but if you don't hand it over, I'll attack you immediately. Mingi threatened and released the divine domain of a lesser high deity. He wanted to use pressure to intimidate Night Sorrow. "We can get along harmoniously. Why do you have to make things difficult for me?" When they left the cave, Night Sorrow had defeated a lesser divine lord. Why would he be afraid of a lesser high deity? Seeing Mingi's arrogant look, he shook his head helplessly. Night Sorrow didn't attack Mingi immediately. He looked at Mingi and said, "I'll let you go this time on account of our past friendship. Go back to where you came from. I can pretend that this never happened. Haha. 80 years ago, I could crush you like an ant. Now even if you've improved your strength, you're still no match for me. Since you don't want to give me face, I'll crush you to death." Mingi seemed to have heard the biggest joke in the world when he heard Night Sorrow's words. After laughing wildly for a while, he immediately gathered his divine origin energy and released his divine domain to crush Night Sorrow. Sigh. It seems that as an itinerant cultivator, you're really uninformed. Before entering the cave, Night Sorrow had already defeated Feng Xiaoyan and obtained a contract with the Jubao Pavilion. Therefore, he was being hunted by the Shadow Pavilion. Mingyi still didn't know about this until now. Seeing that Mingyi was overestimating himself and releasing his divine domain, Night Sorrow sneered and released his own divine domain. Buzz. Night Sorrow released his divine domain and immediately suppressed Mingyi, making him feel like he was trapped in a swamp. You've become so much stronger. This. Mingyi, who was suddenly suppressed, was dumbfounded. However, he didn't stop immediately. Instead, he used a secret technique to adjust his strength to the strongest state and released the heaven-tearing palm print. This was one of his strongest unique skills that he had inherited from a divine lord. Some forces really didn't leave any talented cultivators in Hebei City. Mingyi's strength was too weak. Facing his unique skill, Night Sorrow gently waved his palm and sent him flying. At this time he remembered that Wu Xian suppressed Hebei City. He thought that after dealing with the divine lord Jin Yuan, he must find a way to rescue some talented cultivators and send them away. Go to hell. Mingyi, who was sent flying, spat out several mouthfuls of blood. Seeing that Mingyi was sent flying by Night Sorrow, some of the nearby cultivators who were attracted by the sound of the battle and came to watch the battle were immediately stunned. For a long time, the 5 high gods were the gods of Hebei City. Now Mingyi was defeated on the spot and was crushed by a strong force. Some of the cultivators who had come into contact with Night Sorrow at the Sea and Sky Grand Bazaar immediately explained the origin of Night Sorrow to others. How can this Night Sorrow be so strong? If they continue to fight, they will definitely die. It won't be easy to escape from him. He cultivates the power of merit. If the innocent cultivators are in danger, he will definitely save them. I might as well go all the way. The difference in strength was too big. Knowing that he couldn't defeat Night Sorrow, Mingyi immediately gave up the idea of coveting the secret treasure. He took out a dozen high god-level talismans, activated them, and blasted them in all directions at some of the cultivators who were watching the battle. Chapter 2533. This is truly a sin committed by the heavens that can be pardoned. Seeing that Mingyi had done such a ruthless thing, Night Sorrow immediately used the Divine Essence Dragon Locking Formation to lock Mingyi and the talismans in a sealed space. Buzz. Not long after, the sound of talismans exploding could be heard in the sealed space. Mingyi didn't even have the chance to scream before he was blasted to death by the talisman he had thrown out. In fact, if he hadn't activated so many talismans, the defensive robe Night Sorrow had given him could have saved his life. If you're not injured, you can leave now. Mingyi had been killed by the talisman he had thrown out. Night Sorrow took back the defensive robe he had given him, cupped his hands and prepared to leave. At this time, City Lord Shangguan Yun arrived with his men. When he saw Night Sorrow, he scolded with a cold face. Do you know that there are rules in Hebei City? I know. I can't attack for no reason. Night Sorrow, who was holding the crimson golden dragon insignia in his hand, knew that Shangguan Yun didn't have good intentions, but he still replied calmly, preparing to use peaceful means before resorting to force. Since you know, why did you attack in front of everyone and kill High God Mingyi? Shangguan Yun's body carried the aura of a superior. He attacked for no reason and snatched the crimson golden dragon insignia from me. In the end, he threw out the talisman and killed himself. It had nothing to do with me. Night Sorrow observed Shangguan Yun and the people behind him as he replied. One of the cultivators behind him was a high god. If not for the sea serpent eye, Night Sorrow wouldn't have been able to see through him. I'll find out what happened. If you didn't do it, come with me to the City Lord Mansion and explain everything. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. Night Sorrow's potential had reached the point where he had to control himself. Moreover, he had killed a disciple of the Shangguan clan. Shangguan Yun naturally wouldn't let him go. Shangguan Yun, since you are completely unreasonable, there is no need for you to continue being the governor. From Shangguan Lin to Shangguan Lei to Shangguan Hai on the God of Feathers list, none of them were good people. Facing Shangguan Yun, who was also from the Shangguan clan, Night Sorrow explained a little, and didn't have the mood to continue talking nonsense. How could he go to the city lord's mansion? How dare you? Take him down. Shangguan Yun, who was berated by Night Sorrow, immediately gave the order with a murderous expression. Everyone from the city lord's mansion, including that high god, immediately surrounded Night Sorrow. Everyone saw it. Today the city lord Shangguan Yun indiscriminately framed a good person. Now I, Night Sorrow, will abolish his city lord position. Night Sorrow shouted to the onlooking cultivators as he faced the crowd that surrounded him. Then he took out the heavenly samsara halberd and held it horizontally in his hands. This aura. I know, the person who killed young Master Lin is this person. I can't be wrong about the aura of this divine weapon. When Night Sorrow took out the heavenly samsara halberd, Umbra immediately confirmed it to Shangguan Yun. What? Are you sure? Shangguan Yun's expression immediately changed. Previously, when he was fighting in the treasure-gathering pavilion, this subordinate only had suspicions. Now, I can confirm that he is the one who killed young Master Lin. Umbra immediately confirmed. Good, very good. If I take back the token in his hand, it will definitely be a great merit. That's the treasure that the Divine Monarch Patriarch wants back. Shangguan Yun laughed loudly. What he was thinking about was the black diamond-shaped token that Night Sorrow had obtained when he killed Shangguan Lin. What's going on? Just as Shangguan Yun and Umbra were communicating, Night Sorrow had already killed that high god. Shangguan Yun raised his head and saw that his strongest high god, Shangguan Ming, had already been killed. How could he be in the mood to continue fighting? He transmitted his voice to the city's hidden sentries about Night Sorrow, and used an escape technique to escape. Shangguan Yun, where do you think you're going? Seeing that Shangguan Yun wanted to escape, Night Sorrow immediately used the Divine Origin Dragon locking array to restrain him. When the others saw that Shangguan Yun was captured, they all chose to self-detonate, wanting to pose a threat to Night Sorrow. You guys are somewhat loyal, but it's useless. The self-detonation of the people from the city lord's mansion seemed tragic, but Yishang's god domain and the defense of the Blue Phoenix battle armor weren't something they could break. Their self-detonation was like moths flying into a flame. It didn't have any effect. Soon after, Night Sorrow sealed Shangguan Yun's cultivation and made him give up resisting. He kept him in the clear sky pagoda and rushed to Long Tianqing's residence. Just like before, Night Sorrow used the taboo attribute to pass the erase test, and appeared in Long Tianqing's courtyard. Today's Long Tianqing is somewhat different from before. In the past, she was wearing coarse hemp clothes. Today, she is wearing a red robe and her face is also smeared with rouge. Originally, she had that kind of otherworldly appearance, giving people the feeling of an otherworldly expert. Dressing up like this, she is more beautiful and alluring. Senior Tianqing, thank you for saving my family. Fortunately, I didn't disappoint you. This is the letter that the Divine Lord gave you. Night Sorrow placed the Crimson Golden Dragon insignia on the ground and thanked Long Tianqing with a bow. He took out the letter that Divine Lord Jin Yuan gave him. Long Tianqing's eyes suddenly welled up with tears. She raised her head and wiped away her tears. She choked and said, Brother Yuan, come out. Tianqing, I've let you down. Just as Long Tianqing opened her mouth, Divine Lord Jin Yuan's phantom flew out of the letter. I've only waited for a few days. One day, we will live together again. Long Tianqing's voice was trembling. She reached out to grab Divine Lord Jin Yuan's phantom, but passed through his body. This scene was very cruel. Night Sorrow, who was at the side, was somewhat moved. In these years, did the dragons continue to make things difficult for you? Divine Lord Jin Yuan's phantom was also somewhat emotional. Before he could finish his sentence, Long Tianqing interrupted him and said, Ignore them. Big Brother Yuan, what should I do to be able to save you? Now, Night Sorrow has obtained a secret technique from the Temple of the 33 Days that can strengthen the soul. With his help, my soul can be perfectly restored. If I want to restore my physical body, I need a Heavenly Phoenix Myriad Transformations elixir. Divine Lord Jin Yuan looked at Long Tianqing after explaining. He knew that Long Tianqing's family had information about the Heavenly Phoenix Myriad Transformations elixir. Heavenly Phoenix Myriad Transformations elixir? I heard my father mention it before. I heard that this elixir came from Tianyuan school. However, it hasn't appeared in a long time. Long Tianqing's brows revealed a trace of sadness. An elixir that hadn't appeared in the God realm for a long time might not appear again. Where is Tianyuan school? Maybe I can go and check. Now that Night Sorrow had offended the Dark Moon Dominator's residence, he definitely couldn't stay in High Bay City. After talking to Long Tianqing and Jin Yuan, he prepared to leave with his family. When he heard about the Heavenly Phoenix Myriad Transformations elixir, he immediately asked. Tianyuan School is located at the intersection of the Tianai Dominators region, the Seven Stars Dominators region, and the Dark Moon Dominators region. That region is called the Cloud Immortal Continent. It's a pure land that the Dominators won't interfere with. There are 7 major sects there, and Tianyuan School is one of them. Chapter 2534. There's such a place in the God realm? It just so happens that I offended someone from the Dark Moon Dominator's residence. I can join the Tianyuan School and lie low for a while. While raising my strength, I can search for the Heavenly Luan of all transformations pill. Seeing Long Tianqing's anticipation, Night Sorrow pondered for a moment, then spoke his mind. There was no harm in doing so, and he could help God's sovereign Jin Yuan and Long Tianqing. He had no reason to refuse. Sit down and have some tea. I was a little rude. After Yi Shang spoke, the worry in Long Tianqing's heart immediately vanished. She got Divine Lord Jin Yuan's phantom image, and Yi Shang to sit down as she personally brewed tea. After pouring a cup for Night Sorrow, Long Tianqing said, I know that you offended the Dark Moon Dominator's residence. For now, they won't send experts above the Divine Lord level. I can help you stop them. If you have any problems in the near future, you can handle them without worry. Senior Tianqing, I have an elder who was captured by a high god called Ling Yin. He works under the Purple Mansion Divine Lord. I wonder if Senior Tianqing knows them? Night Sorrow indeed had many things to take care of. However, Yi Linghuan, Lin Piaomiao, and Yi Shaluo had all recovered. The most important thing left was to rescue Wu Lingfei. Night Sorrow had deep feelings for Wu Lingfei. He hoped to save her from this abyss of suffering as soon as possible. I've never heard of Ling Yin. The Purple Mansion Divine Lord is an invincible Divine Lord on the Divine Lord ranking. I know him, but I've never interacted with him. His true form is a sky-devouring sparrow, and he's extremely evil. Long Tianqing took a sip of tea and continued. He's under the Divine King of Azura, and the Divine King of All Heaven is a subordinate of the All Heaven ruler. Those people have a bad reputation. I'll discuss this matter with Zifu Divine Lord first. If he's willing to back down, it's best that we resolve this peacefully. If not, we'll think of a way to get your friend back. Thank you, Senior Tianqing. However, no matter how this matter is resolved, I have to kill Ling Yin. Night Sorrow said. Then he told her about how all the talented cultivators in High Bay City had been suppressed by Wu Xin's men. This Wu Xian is truly an ungrateful person. At that moment, Sir God Jin Yuan was only an illusion. However, when he heard what Wu Xian had done, he was so angry that he almost exploded. He had put in so much effort for High Bay City, but in the end, he had cultivated Wu Xian, this ingrate. His family had been crushed to pieces. Divine Lord Senior Tianqing, what I mean is that before we leave High Bay City for Tianyuan School, we should try our best to rescue the people who are being suppressed. Night Sorrow said slowly. He was prepared to rescue them and bring them to the Cloud Immortal Continent so that they could cultivate again. This way, he would be able to answer to Mo Yuqian. This matter is very difficult. I'm not a member of the Dark Moon Dominator's territory. If I act rashly, I might alert the Divine King or the Lord. That would be troublesome. After all, the matter of Wu Lingfei only involved 1 or 2 people. Long Tianqing could help. However, Rescuing all the geniuses who had been suppressed in High Bay City for so many years involved too many people. It wasn't convenient for her to act. It's okay. I can do this myself. Knight Sorrow thought of the dark alliance that Yin Tianyi was in. He was going to find time to contact Elder Zhuang, to see if he could come up with a suitable rescue strategy. At the same time, he was going to inquire about Yin Tianyi's whereabouts. Sigh, this matter is on your shoulders alone. As a divine lord, I can't do anything to help. Sir God Jinyuan's face was filled with an apologetic look. Divine lord, don't worry. I will do my best to rescue all your clansmen. Then, I will find the Heavenly Phoenix Myriad Transformation Pill, and restore your body. There were only 800 to 900 years left before the soul-devouring beast was born. Knight Sorrow hoped that Sir God Jinyuan could recover as soon as possible. You can handle these matters yourself. Long Tianqing sighed. There were some things that she really couldn't do anything about. All right. In that case, Knight Sorrow shall not disturb Divine Lord and Senior Tianqing from catching up. After saying what needed to be said, Knight Sorrow finished the tea in his cup and stood up to leave. I have set up a new array formation in the courtyard where your family is. This is the array formation diagram. Take it out and study it. Before Knight Sorrow left, Long Tianqing handed him an array formation diagram. Thank you, Senior Tianqing. I won't stand on ceremony with you. After receiving the array formation diagram, Knight Sorrow turned and walked out of Long Tianqing's residence slowly. Then he flew towards the courtyard where his family was. During the flight, Knight Sorrow memorized the contents of the array formation diagram. When he reached the entrance of the courtyard, he didn't inform any of his family members. Instead, he followed the instructions on the array formation diagram and broke through the array formation. When Knight Sorrow walked into the courtyard, his wife and daughter were there. Lin Piaomiao was the first to see Knight Sorrow. She immediately stood up and said emotionally, "All these years." She wanted to say some words of concern, but before she could finish her sentence, she choked up a little. All these years, Shi Yilinghuan and Yi Shaluo had suffered a lot. However, she knew that Knight Sorrow must have had a much harder time than her. 13. You are back. When Lin Piaomiao spoke, the others also noticed Knight Sorrow. Sikong Chuyu, Yang Lei Aoi, and the others all stood up. All these years, I have owed you all too much. Knight Sorrow walked in front of the girls and said emotionally, "Don't say that. You were the one who fought outside and brought resources and peace to this family. Everyone saw it. Now that you are back, take a good rest." Sikong Chiyu took out a reclining chair for Knight Sorrow. "This time, I might have to migrate with everyone again. That Jubao Pavilion was the property of the Dark Moon Dominator." Knight Sorrow sat on the reclining chair. When he talked about Jubao Pavilion, his face was full of guilt. Ever since they came to the Divine Realm, Night Moon Dominator had been living without a fixed residence. Hearing this, Yang Lei immediately said worriedly, "Neopatian and Yuan Xianro have been in Jubao Pavilion for decades. 13. Do you want to go and take a look?" "Yes. I should go and take a look. Wait a moment, I will be back soon." Knight Sorrow took a sip of tea and put down the teacup. He said something to everyone and rushed to Jubao Pavilion. When he arrived at Jubao Pavilion, Knight Sorrow saw that Jubao Pavilion was currently open for business. Neopatian and Yuan Xianro were standing in front of the door to welcome guests. Both of them had sealed their cultivation and looked very weak. "Bastard! Who told you to come out and do this?" When he saw the two of them, Knight Sorrow immediately flew to their side and removed the restraints on their bodies. Captain!" When he realized that it was Knight Sorrow, he came to Neopatian and shouted excitedly. Then his expression changed drastically. "Captain, let's go. There are a few powerful exalted gods in Jubao Pavilion now." "Yes, my lord, run. Don't worry about us." Yuan Xianro's eyes were also filled with worry. She had come to Jubao Pavilion to help manage it after reaching the divine feather level. Chapter 25-35. Who are you? How dare you save the Pavilion Master's criminal? As soon as Neopatian and Yuan Xianro finished speaking, several half-step feather gods rushed out of the Jubao Pavilion. After berating Night Sorrow, they realized that they couldn't see through his cultivation level and immediately shut their mouths, afraid that they would be slapped to death. The two of you come with me. Since they are doing business in this shop, we will collect all the items in the Jubao Pavilion as rent. Night Sorrow led Neopatian and Yuan Xianro into the Jubao Pavilion and took out the Heavenly Dao contract from his spatial artifact. Today, the Jubao Pavilion is going to clean up the shameless people who have taken over our shop. Unrelated friends, please leave for now. His voice wasn't loud and he didn't shout, but everyone in the Jubao Pavilion heard him. What's going on? Someone is causing trouble in the Jubao Pavilion again? Many of the cultivators who were shopping in the Jubao Pavilion had heard about Night Sorrow causing trouble in the Jubao Pavilion back then. Who is causing trouble in the Jubao Pavilion? Do you want to die? Hearing Night Sorrow's voice, dozens of attendants in the Jubao Pavilion rushed into the hall. Most of these attendants were feather gods. After seeing Night Sorrow, they immediately transmitted their voices to the higher-ups of the Inying Hall. Some of them had witnessed Night Sorrow's battle with their own eyes, while others had seen Night Sorrow's battle scenes. They were very afraid of him. I'll give you a chance to leave immediately. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless. The Jubao Pavilion belongs to me, Night Sorrow. It's not something that anyone can occupy. Night Sorrow looked at these feather god attendants. Killing these feather gods would be as easy as crushing ants. However, that would only increase the number of people killed. You wouldn't do that. Who dares to speak so arrogantly? At this moment, the three ascendant gods that the Inying Hall had invited from the city lord's mansion all appeared. The one in front was an old man with white hair. He had the strength of a half-step divine lord. This kind of strength was completely overwhelming in Haibei City. Night Sorrow's aura was very strong, but he was obviously only a feather god. He didn't take him seriously at all. I'll say one more thing. Jubao Pavilion is my Night Sorrow's property. Unrelated people, leave immediately. Otherwise, don't blame the sword for being blind. Night Sorrow didn't feel any pressure when facing three powerful high gods. Neopatian and Yuan Xianro, who were beside him, were trembling in fear. To the two of them, the high god was an invincible existence that couldn't be resisted. The two of them were worried that Night Sorrow wouldn't be able to wrap things up. The three high gods invited by the Inying Hall had the same thoughts as Neopatian and Yuan Xianro. When they heard Night Sorrow's words, they immediately laughed wildly. They did not take the feather god seriously at all. One of the female cultivators with a sinister face said disdainfully, "Aren't you afraid that the wind will cut your tongue?" If they knew what was good for them, they would quickly kneel and beg for mercy. Maybe if I'm in a good mood, I'll torture you less. Let's not waste our time talking to an ignorant ant. In my opinion, we should quickly capture him, pull out his tendons and pull out his bones before sending him to the ruler's manor. The male cultivator standing beside the female cultivator had the strength of a high god. He had a human body, but two wild boar-like fangs at the corners of his mouth. He looked very fierce. Since none of you want to leave, then stay. Facing the three high gods and dozens of feather god cultivators, Night Sorrow directly used his divine domain to suppress them. He's a little strong. Don't be careless. Use your ultimate techniques. Night Sorrow's divine domain was so powerful that the three high gods invited by the Inying Hall immediately felt that it was extraordinary. Although the three of them weren't suppressed by Night Sorrow's divine domain like the feather god cultivators, they could clearly feel that their divine essence energy was not flowing smoothly. Knowing that Night Sorrow was very strong and that he wasn't an ordinary feather god, they immediately used their strongest techniques. However, Night Sorrow didn't even need to use his Samsara halberd, as he had activated his essence Chi Smoke and Star's tyrant body. With a slap of his hand, he neutralized all three of their attacks and sent them flying with three palm strikes. The female cultivator and the male cultivator with the fangs were immediately smashed to pieces by Night Sorrow's palm strikes. The half-step Divine Lord male cultivator, on the other hand, was quite strong. He was only slightly injured. Seeing his companion killed in an instant, the Divine Lord realm cultivator's expression immediately changed. His mission was to wait for Night Sorrow in Seaside City. Now that he was here, but he wasn't strong enough, it made him feel very awkward. Divine Talisman. Yes, there's still a divine talisman. The half-step Divine Lord cultivator's eyes lit up. He took out the Divine Lord talisman given to him by the ruler's manor. After activating it, he slapped at Night Sorrow with a crazed expression. You may be strong, but you definitely won't be able to withstand a strike from a Divine Lord. Go to hell. Divine Essence Dragon Lock Formation. After all, it was a strike from a Divine Lord. Night Sorrow didn't underestimate it. He used the Divine Essence Dragon Lock Formation to isolate the Divine Talisman. Boom. The Divine Talisman shattered the sealed space of the Divine Essence Dragon Lock Formation, but it only damaged some of Night Sorrow's Divine Essence. After experiencing many battles, Night Sorrow had mastered the Divine Essence Dragon Lock Formation to an extremely high level. Looks like you've run out of tricks. Night Sorrow, who had easily blocked the Divine Talisman's attack, waved his hand and sent the half-step Divine Lord flying again. What kind of monster is this? Night Sorrow was clearly only at the Feather God realm, but when he erupted, he was about the same as a Divine Lord. This made people feel very helpless. The half-step Divine Lord invited by the Inying Hall was in despair. Where is Feng Xiaoyan? Is he dead? Feng Xiaoyan had once made a heavenly Tao oath. If he betrayed Night Sorrow and his family, his soul would be destroyed. He couldn't help but ask when he didn't see Feng Xiaoyan in the Jubao Pavilion today. Feng Xiaoyan, that traitor, actually betrayed the Inying Hall and the ruler's residence and secretly gave the Jubao Pavilion to you. He has already been sent back to the ruler's residence to be punished by Hall Masterling Xiaoya. The half-step Divine Lord threatened Night Sorrow after saying that. You're just a feather god. You've offended the ruler's residence. No one in the divine world can protect you. If you know what's good for you, kneel down and beg for mercy. I'll bring you to apologize to Lord Steward. You don't have to worry about these things for me. After getting the answer he wanted, Night Sorrow didn't hesitate at all. He killed the half-step Divine Lord in front of him with a slap. He looked at the many feather gods present and said, You don't deserve to die, but you can't escape punishment. To prevent you from helping the evildoer in the future, you'll be my servants from now on. After saying that, Night Sorrow waved his hand and sent all the people who had given up resisting into his spatial artifact. Night Sorrow didn't cripple these people because he hated Ling Yun's method of crippling people's cultivation. He was prepared to let them use their strength to atone for their sins in the future. Today, I, Night Sorrow, make a vow here. No matter who it is, anyone who dares to rob the Jubao Pavilion will receive my thunderous retaliation in the future. This includes any power. It was definitely inappropriate for Neopatian and Yuan Xianro to stay in the Jubao Pavilion. After that, Night Sorrow brought them back to the courtyard after putting all the valuable items in the Jubao Pavilion into his spatial artifact. At this moment, the tea he had just drunk was still warm. Night Sorrow, you're back. This time, Night Sorrow came to the courtyard he had prepared for his friends. You're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.